Chapter 619, Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion. Divine Wind Legion. Li Lingtian thought for a long time before he finally replied. Divine Wind Legion. Divine Wind Legion. This name is not bad. Domineering, the momentum of the wind sweeping away clouds. With the power of lightning, the wind and clouds move, invincible. Upon hearing Li Lingtian mention the Divine Wind Troop, they nodded in agreement. Although they were smart girls, they were still girls after all. Hence, they had to behave like girls. Naturally, the name they gave was not domineering. As a powerhouse, Li Lingtian naturally had more considerations. This name was also suitable for a martial emperor's army. Coupled with the heaven demon monarch's strength and warlike nature, he naturally led a martial monarch battle group. At the same time, he had also thought of the name of the army of martial supremes and martial emperors. He had even thought of the battle group of martial saints. The martial emperor level was Divine Wind, the martial honor level was Divine Dragon, the martial emperor level was Divine Martial, and the martial saint level was War God. Such a name had its advantages and its rules. If you take out the Divine Martial Army, you will definitely become the public enemy of the Divine Martial Continent. Now, he had 5,000 martial emperors and 1,000 supreme realm experts under him. He could establish 2 legions immediately. When the time comes, order Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao to come back and lead the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion. Heaven Monster King will be the commander of the Divine Wind Legion, and Martial Saint Yunhao will be the commander of the Divine Dragon Legion. With the 2 of them working together, they will be invincible. Li Lingtian's smile remained as he thought of the strength of the 2 legions. These legions were led and developed by themselves. The Divine Wind Troop could naturally have martial venerables, martial emperors, and even martial saints. It was not limited to martial emperors. The Divine Dragon Army was also a martial honor. They could also have martial emperors and martial saints, but they could not let anyone below the rank of a martial honor join them. Moreover, loyalty and strength were the criteria for joining. These 2 legions will slowly replace all the other legions. When they have tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions, they will become powerful weapons that can sweep across the world. Ling Tian, as long as you have Divine Martial and War God under your control, no one in this world will dare to provoke us. Tang Genji smiled happily. Her words were exactly what Li Lingtian had meant. There were only a few thousand legions at the moment, but in the future, they would become the main force that would sweep across the world. There's another very serious problem. Yingying is here too. You siblings have to think it over. Huang Fuyuyan looked at Li Lingtian seriously before her gaze landed on Shenyuan Yingying. Seeing Huang Fuyuyan's serious expression, they all looked at her, wondering what the problem was. What's the problem? Tell me about it. Li Lingtian looked at Huang Fuyuyan and spoke gently. The things his wife said must be important, or else she would not have said them out loud. Furthermore, the things she said must be for his own good. That's right. No matter what army it is, it must have a banner. Because we have to let the army know who they are serving and whether it is worth it. This banner is also the soul of the army. Now that the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion have appeared, the experts below naturally have to know the figures behind the 2 legions. In this way, they must have a banner. For this banner, all the armies can swear to protect the dignity of the banner. I want to know if you are going to take the banner, Li or Shenyuan. Huang Fuyuyan's words were not rhetorical at all. She had just stated the problem. This way, the problem was out there and everyone could come up with a solution. Since Li Lingtian was a Li by nature, he should have established a Li Consortium's banner. However, Li Lingtian had joined the Shenyuan family and was also called Shenyuan Lingtian. If he were to use the Li Consortium's banner, it would not be good for Shenyuan. If he were to use the Shenyuan banner, it would affect Li Lingtian. The questions silenced the living room as everyone turned to look at Li Lingtian and Shenyuan Yingying. The flag is obviously the Li Consortium's flag. Although big brother Ling Tian has joined the Shenyuan clan, the surname is just a formality. The Xian Yuan clan is spread all over the world, and all the people in the world are descendants of the Xian Yuan clan. Moreover, the Xian Yuan clan stands aloof from worldly affairs and is Brother Ling Tian's eternal home. If we use the Xian Yuan clan's name, it'll be even more serious than Brother Ling Tian using the Divine Martial Army. Besides, Big Brother Ling Tian is the young master of the Xian Yuan clan, and Ying will be Big Brother Ling Tian's wife in the future. Of course, she'll follow Big Brother Ling Tian, and her name will naturally be the Li Consortium. Xianyuan Ying was the first to speak. Her face turned red as she finished speaking. Even though she had been with Li Lingtian for a long time, this was the first time she had said such words. Even though she adored Li Lingtian and knew that she would become Li Lingtian's wife, it was still a little embarrassing to say it out loud. However, when she said this, all the girls were satisfied. They did not reject her at all. In the past, they did not reject her at all. Instead, they liked her. Now, there was no reason to reject her. Let's use the Li Consortium's banner. Ying is right. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement with Xianyuan Ying's suggestion. In fact, it did not matter to him what the banner was because it was all about strength. However, Xianyuan Ying felt shy when he said that. Xianyuan Ying had said that she wanted to be his wife, and he had agreed with her. He didn't care about the things that happened in between, but Xianyuan Ying did. Oh right, I'll refine more pills during this period of time as a reward for those talented experts and those who have contributed to the army. This way, we can also absorb more martial emperors and martial saints. Although we won't take out the Divine Martial Army and the War God Army, we have to build them in secret first. Finally, Li Lingtian brought up the most important matter. Once some matters were resolved, everyone felt relaxed. Following that, they went to the garden to play and cultivate. Li Lingtian ordered the Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao to come back and build 2 legions. The war had ended, and they had even taken down Southwind County. Now, with the combined forces of North Cloud County and Nandu County, the situation was stable. The shock from the outside world did not affect Li Lingtian and the others' plans. Chu Tianlan, Zhou Ziyun, and a few martial saints were reorganizing their troops and awaiting Li Lingtian's orders. Once the order was given, they would sweep through the other commanderies. All of a sudden, some of the commanderies near the North Cloud Commandery became uneasy, worried that Nandu Commandery would make a move. However, Chu Tianlan and the rest of the army did not make a move. Instead, they focused on reorganizing their forces. Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao had also rushed back and were waiting for Li Lingtian in the living room. This subordinate greets young master. Upon seeing Li Lingtian's arrival, Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao bowed respectfully. No matter how powerful they were in the outside world, they were respectful in front of Li Lingtian. They knew how powerful Li Lingtian was. I called you back because I have something important to tell you. I've already established the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion. I need you to lead them. As a commander-in-chief, you need to have heaven-defying strength, great intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to communicate with your subordinates. Yunhao, I won't talk about it anymore. I'm mainly looking at you, Sky Yao. You like to kill, but you have to worry about your subordinates and army. I'm giving you an army, not for you to fight alone. The success or failure of an army depends on the commander's ability. The 5,000 martial emperors of the Divine Wind Legion will be handed over to the Heavenly Yao. The 1,000 martial venerables of the Divine Dragon Legion will be handed over to Yunhao. You two can develop yourselves. In the future, these 2 legions will become the main force that will sweep the world. Li Lingtian explained his arrangements and the countless principles of leading an army. They were powerhouses, but they knew nothing about leading an army. Hence, they wanted to take advantage of this small skirmish to gain some experience. Otherwise, when the various countries and kingdoms fought for hegemony, he would not have anyone he could use. Your subordinate will obey. I will definitely make the army a powerful army that can sweep across the world. Heavenly Monster King and Yunhao were extremely excited as they knelt down respectfully to receive Li Lingtian's order. At the same time, she understood Li Lingtian's painstaking efforts and the difficulty of the task. Yunhao Martial Saint was fine. He was extremely intelligent. As long as he fought steadily, nothing would happen. The Heavenly Demon King felt heavy because the Divine Wind Legion of a martial emperor had the most people. It had become the main force. There were millions of troops at any time. At that time, as the commander, he couldn't have any problems. Li Lingtian trusted him by assigning him such a mission. Therefore, he must not disappoint Li Lingtian no matter what. Even though he knew that he would not have the chance to participate in the battle in the future, he still had to agree. Although you are martial saints, with such a legion in your hands, it's inevitable that some experts will attack you. Therefore, no matter what, you must protect your lives. As long as there's life, there's hope. I can lose the world if I keep my most trusted guard by my side, but I don't want my subordinates to be killed. Although I'm powerful, I don't have the ability to bring the dead back to life. You guys take care of yourselves. This is a crucial period for the establishment of the army, so you must be serious and slowly train. When the time comes, you will be able to conquer the kingdom and conquer the world. Li Lingtian said seriously without any pretense on his face. He looked at Heavenly Monster King and Martial Saint Yunhao. He was a person who cared about relationships. He would rather lose the world than lose his loved ones. Even his subordinates were the same. After being with him for a long time, they would develop feelings. I will not disappoint you, young master. I will help you sweep the entire Heaven Mystic continent and dominate the world. I will make the world tremble in front of your army. The two of them were extremely touched. With Li Lingtian's words, their deaths were worth it. They did not think that Li Lingtian was trying to stir things up because they understood Li Lingtian's character and knew how powerful he was. There was no need to stir things up. P.S. I recommend this book, Muken's complete masterpiece. One hand covers the immortals. All readers can go and take a look. He casually asked for votes. Chapter 620, Flame Gold Demon Dragon. After receiving the order, the two of them went to the drill ground and took their men away. Moreover, Li Lingtian had specially crafted the Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion's tokens. With Li Lingtian's orders, there would not be any objection. Furthermore, they were all extremely excited because when the war came, they would become the heroes of the army. When they fought for the world, they also had a part to play. Li Lingtian felt much more relaxed after everything was arranged. The two legions were developed by his subordinates. He didn't need to do it himself. He would only make a move at the truly critical moment. He understood that the truly terrifying existences were those hidden experts. He wanted to be a person behind the scenes and achieve everything with the smallest amount of strength. He was able to strategize thousands of miles away and guide the country. It's almost done here. Let's go to Qingxian. Li Lingtian was smiling. Qingxian was the foundation of the empire. Even though it was not breached by the combined attack of several other countries, the situation was already in danger. He did not want to see Qingxian destroyed. After all, this was the Shenyuan family's property. With the addition of two legions, they would develop rapidly. As long as no accidents happened, they would become stronger quickly. Moreover, he had also arranged for the war to sweep through the entire Qingxian country and unify the country. At the same time, he would also clean up the commanderies around the Qingxian country. They were going to attack Qingxian with unstoppable momentum. They could wait in Qingxian. Moreover, there was another important thing. When the Divine Wind and Dragon Legion reached Qingxian, they would slowly replace the main force. When the time came, he would be behind the Qing Luo Kingdom and Tian Luo Kingdom. With the addition of the Qingxian Kingdom, he would be able to deal a heavy blow to these countries. I understand what you mean. I understand what Ling Tian means. When Huangfu Yuyan heard that Li Lingtian was going to Qingxian, a smile immediately appeared on her face. Tang Qingyue was also beaming. The two of them were extremely intelligent and naturally knew of Li Lingtian's plan. Sister Yuyan, Sister Qingyue, what do you understand? Tang Zimen, Shun Mei, and the others looked at Huangfu Yuyan and Tang Qingyue curiously, wondering what they had understood. We won't tell you. You should ask him. The two ladies smiled and looked at Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian had no intention of opening his mouth. Since he did not say anything, they gave up out of boredom. However, they were overjoyed at the thought of going to Qingxian. Very soon, they began to pack up and prepare to head to Qingxian. 3 days later, Li Lingtian and the others left Nandu County. The other martial emperors and martial saints also left Nandu County a day earlier. Martial Saint Ming Luo was the commander of the Divine Martial Army, and Longda was the commander of the War God Army. The two armies had not appeared yet, but they had been established. They managed their own armies. However, Longda was Li Lingtian's bodyguard. Naturally, his subordinates stayed by Li Lingtian's side. On this trip to Qingxian, Li Lingtian did not ask them to follow him. Instead, he headed to Qingxian first while Longda piloted the spaceship and swiftly flew toward Qingxian. Leaving Nandu County, they were all extremely happy. This was the first time they had crossed over to this place. Although they were reluctant to leave now, they wanted to travel the world. Furthermore, this was also the first time he was leaving Nandu County for the stronger Qingxian country. On the spaceship, a group of girls were chattering non-stop, looking extremely excited. Li Lingtian was delighted to see the girls' reactions. However, he had to be more careful since Big Dragon was the only one by his side this time. From Nandu Prefecture to Qingxian, even if it was a flying ship, it would still take 5 days. Moreover, Li Lingtian and the others were not in a hurry to get on the road. They flew at a moderate pace and enjoyed the scenery along the way. They would stay and visit the fun places they came across. With a group of peerless beauties by his side, no matter where he was, he would be in a good mood. Even if the war in Qingxian was raging in countless commanderies, they didn't take it seriously. After all, the war had nothing to do with them. Moreover, by then, the Qingxian kingdom would be theirs, so there was naturally no need for them to care. In fact, within Qingxian, other than Nandu Prefecture, all the other commanderies had sent troops to support Qingxian. Li Lingtian paid attention to every commandery he passed by. Although they had sent troops to support Qingxian, they had not shown their true strength. Instead, they had hidden their formidable strength. Li Lingtian could only smile when he saw the situation. After all, the divine martial continent was selfish and would not give up all its strength. This was good too. When the Divine Wind and the Divine Dragon Legion came to clean up the place, all the forces would gather together. Boom! On this day, Li Lingtian and the others entered Qingxian. Qingxian was a country with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. The commanderies under it were just affiliated. This Qingxian was the real country. Everything below it was under the jurisdiction of Qingxian. Just as Li Lingtian and the rest spaceship passed by a mountain range, a shocking spirit chi soared into the sky. The shocking spiritual energy was not as powerful as the spiritual energy pillar in the bottomless abyss, but it carried a sharp attack. Moreover, it was metal-type spiritual energy, pure metal-type spiritual energy. The flying ship shook and almost fell. Fortunately, Long Da's cultivation was deep, so he quickly stabilized the flying ship. After flying for 10 miles, the spaceship came to a stop. Li Lingtian looked at the spirit chi in the mountain range with surprise and a hint of anger on his face. He didn't know if this spiritual energy was unleashed by a powerful force or formed naturally. After pondering for a while, the expression on his face calmed down. Wait for me here. I'll go take a look. Li Lingtian replied calmly. He was extremely curious as to why he was unable to discover the source of the spirit chi despite the mystical existence of the 5 elements Tao intent and heaven and earth reincarnation. Originally, his cultivation and attributes, any of the 5 elements, could not escape his eyes. However, this time was an exception. This was also what he was curious about. After saying that, his figure flashed and disappeared from the spaceship. When he reappeared, he had already arrived at the place where the spiritual energy had just attacked. His divine sense quickly extended, but he did not find any traces. The spiritual energy had also disappeared, as if everything just now was an illusion. It's not that easy to avoid my gaze. Li Lingtian's expression changed. With one hand and one body, a violent metal spirit chi circulated. The will of the great path of metal was also released. Suddenly, the entire mountain range was filled with the violent and destructive will of the great path of metal. The destructive aura of the metal element also became violent. Then, he turned his palm over and cut down in the shape of a knife. With his current cultivation base, even a casual strike without any weapons or skills would be earth-shattering. Even a martial emperor powerhouse would be killed if he was not careful. When the palm cut down, a golden light shot towards the mountain range. It was so fast that it arrived in the blink of an eye. Rumble. Roar. The golden light struck the mountain range, and the mountain range seemed to be cut open. The ground trembled and collapsed continuously. A shocking force soared into the sky, and at the same time, a violent roar sounded from inside. Li Lingtian's face lit up when he heard the voice. He had finally found this fellow. A furious intent filled the air, and the force gradually disappeared. Li Lingtian saw a golden demonic beast appear in the mountains. The demonic beast was 100 meters long and 10 meters tall. Its entire body was incomparably huge, and its entire body was filled with a violent aura. Flame Gold Demon Dragon! Li Lingtian cried out in alarm. He only realized how terrifying the demonic beast was after seeing its appearance. The flaming gold demonic dragon was an 8th-grade existence. Its entire body was golden in color and was practically invulnerable. Even the attacks of martial artists could be completely ignored. The attack just now carried the power of a 4th-level martial emperor, but the flaming gold demonic dragon was not affected at all. Li Lingtian had read about this flaming gold demon dragon in ancient books. It was already a Tier 5 creature when it was born, but he did not expect it to be a Tier 8 creature. It was 2 meters long and 2 meters tall. Its huge body gave people a visual impact. In the ancient books, the flaming gold demonic dragon was a terrifying demonic beast. It was an existence that focused on destruction. On the battlefield, it was simply a sharp weapon that killed people. Wherever it went on the battlefield, it would destroy everything. He did not expect to encounter this flaming gold demon dragon in this mountain range. Furthermore, it was also the time when the flaming gold demon dragon woke up. When it woke up, it unleashed its metal attribute and Li Lingtian's spaceship was hit by its metal attribute aura. Boom! Boom! The flaming gold demonic dragon was enraged when it saw Li Lingtian in the sky. He walked step by step. With every step, the ground would collapse. It was obvious how strong and heavy the flaming gold demonic dragon was. The flaming gold demonic dragon couldn't fly, but it was a fortress on the ground and a destructive weapon. Roar! A beam of metal element light shot out from the flaming gold demon dragon's mouth at an incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived before Li Lingtian. Metal Dao Intent. Li Lingtian's expression changed as a faint smile appeared on his face. He channeled his true essence and activated the true dragon body barrier to protect his body. The limitless feather coat was also activated for defense. The will of the great path of metal was unleashed. Since he wanted to defeat this flaming gold demonic dragon, he had to use its strongest attribute to defeat it. Demonic beasts with 5 elements martial souls were all unlucky in front of him. He was at the peak of the 5 elements Dao intent. Any attack of the 5 elements would be weakened in front of the Dao intent. Tisk! The metal will of the way was circulated to the extreme. The metal element aura between heaven and earth merged with Li Lingtian's body. The golden radiance struck Li Lingtian but was consumed by the metal will of the way. The remaining force landed on Li Lingtian's body but he only swayed slightly. He was not injured at all. Roar! Seeing that its attack had been ignored by the other party, the flaming gold demon dragon roared and spat out another golden light. The radiance was once again consumed by Li Lingtian's metal will of the way. Li Lingtian was not hurt at all. If Li Lingtian were to use the metal element in front of him, he would be asking for trouble. Even a Tier 8 flaming gold demonic dragon would not be able to do so. This was also due to Li Lingtian's improvement in all aspects. Otherwise, he would not be able to withstand the Tier 8 demonic beast's attack even with his 5 elements Dao will. Chapter 621, Subduing the Flaming Gold Demonic Dragon. If it was someone else, no one would be able to block your attack. But in front of me, you're still unable to do so. Li Lingtian watched as the Flaming Gold Demon Dragon continued to attack. The attacks were getting stronger and the tremors Li Lingtian felt were getting stronger. If this continued, he would not be able to withstand it. Roar! The Flaming Gold Demonic Dragon knew that it had met its nemesis. This human also had the metal attribute and was extremely terrifying. Its attacks were completely useless. However, he was unwilling to accept it in his heart. He could only roar and attack. Submit to me, and I will not mistreat you in the future. If you don't submit, you will die. Li Lingtian said coldly as he circulated his entire body's quintessential essence. A stream of light flashed between his brows and a crystal-clear sword appeared before him. The long sword kept spinning, and a shocking pressure was emitted. Instantly, the air seemed to have frozen as Li Lingtian's entire body exuded a terrifying sword will. The Tianyu sword was a supreme saint weapon. After Li Lingtian's cultivation base had improved, the celestial core power in his body had nourished the Tianyu sword every day. As a result, the power of the Tianyu sword had increased significantly. Sword intent was everywhere. He stood proudly between heaven and earth like a sharp sword. The will of the great path of metal wreaked havoc in the space. He grabbed with one hand and the Tianyu sword appeared in his hand. Suddenly, his aura soared, and he floated in the air like a true god. The Tianyu sword in his hand also flashed with a destructive aura. Heaven Sword Unity! Li Lingtian shouted and a shocking sword ray appeared in the air. His entire body disappeared as he was completely integrated into the sword ray. The destructive sword light directly bombarded the flaming gold demonic dragon below. The 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm had the true essence of the 8th or 9th level of the Martial Emperor realm. The heaven and sword merger was an almighty art that had reached the saint realm divine power. In addition to the domineering sword intent and sword force, Li Lingtian had never used it in such a manner even against a martial saint powerhouse. However, the flaming gold demonic dragon was an 8th-order mystical beast with a metal element. Its defense was extremely terrifying. If he wanted to subdue it, he could only defeat it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have submitted to you, so it immediately displayed the destructive heaven sword unity. Roar! Roar! With 2 roars, the flaming gold demonic dragon saw the sword light in the sky and the destructive aura of death. It immediately felt that it was on the verge of death. Instinctively, he was afraid of this sword light in front of him, but it was too late to submit now. Golden light burst out from his entire body as he displayed a terrifying defense. His huge golden tail fiercely swung towards the sword light in the sky, and the space immediately trembled and shattered. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the sword light slashed fiercely onto the huge golden tail. The earth trembled and collapsed, and the space shattered. Longda hurriedly steered the flying ship into the distance to avoid being destroyed by the shattered space. The sword light disappeared, and the golden light was thrown out. In the end, it fell to the ground fiercely. The ground stirred up a cloud of dust, and the ground trembled. Li Lingtian appeared once again. The Tianyu sword in his hand trembled as he stared coldly at the flaming gold demonic dragon on the ground. The flaming gold demonic dragon's metal elemental aura was weak. It was obvious that it was heavily injured. However, it was a miracle that he was able to survive Li Lingtian's all-out attack. A Tier 8 flaming gold demon dragon had such an attack and defense. It was simply terrifying. If Li Lingtian were to deal with a martial saint like this, even a 4th heaven martial saint would lose a layer of skin if he did not die. Surrender or die. Li Lingtian's gaze was icy cold and his voice sounded like it came from hell. Roar! Roar! The flaming gold demonic dragon's lantern-sized eyes were filled with fear as it looked at Li Lingtian fearfully. At the same time, there was a hint of excitement in its eyes as the demonic dragon was a warmonger. Li Lingtian's strength was just what it wanted. It kept growling, but its roars were showing that it was weak. Even if it couldn't speak and didn't have high intelligence, it understood how powerful and terrifying its opponent was. It was also afraid of death. Follow me, and I will not mistreat you. Accept my will. Li Lingtian spoke calmly, but his voice carried a supreme majesty. His gaze was fixed on the flaming gold demonic dragon as if it was real. Seeing that the flaming gold demonic dragon didn't resist, he moved his divine sense and pressed the will of the way of metal towards the flaming gold demonic dragon. A stream of divine sense entered the flaming gold demonic dragon's sea of consciousness. The flaming gold demonic dragon let out miserable cries, but it didn't dare to resist. 2 minutes later, Li Lingtian retracted his metal Tao intent and divine consciousness. There was a satisfied smile in his eyes. To deal with such a demonic beast, one had to truly control it. The metal will of the way combined with his divine perception carved a consciousness on the flaming gold demon dragon. It was Li Lingtian's consciousness, and this consciousness could control the flaming gold demon dragon. As long as the flaming gold demonic dragon didn't betray him, he wouldn't do anything to it. If the flaming gold demonic dragon dared to betray him, he could destroy the flaming gold demonic dragon with a single thought. However, Li Lingtian would have to lose a portion of his divine consciousness. However, it was nothing compared to his safety. Li Lingtian was feeling a little weak after he was done. His face was pale. After all, it was a little too much to expend his divine consciousness to subdue a Tier 8 flaming gold demon dragon. Return to your original form. Li Lingtian spoke to the flaming gold demonic dragon after he calmed himself down. Instantly, the flaming gold demonic dragon turned into a strange demonic beast that was 3 meters long. Its entire body was shining with golden light. If one did not transform into a demonic dragon, one would not be able to tell that it was a flaming gold demonic dragon at all. After transforming, Li Lingtian grabbed the flaming gold dragon with one hand and brought it to the spaceship. The flying ship quickly flew into the distance. Tang Qingyue and the others were extremely excited. In a short while, they had subdued an 8th-grade flaming gold demon dragon. It was indeed a good thing for them. At the very least, the flaming gold demonic dragon was a rank 8 existence, equivalent to a Marshall Saint powerhouse. Its defense was astounding. If not for Li Lingtian's Heaven Sword Unity, no one would have been able to hurt the flaming gold demonic dragon. It was not that easy to subdue the flaming gold demonic dragon. After Li Lingtian boarded the spaceship, he returned to his room in the spaceship. He had just unleashed the metal Tao intent, which had consumed his vital essence and divine consciousness. He had suffered a great loss and needed a good rest. Tang Qingyue and the other girls naturally followed him back to the room. On the spaceship, there was a huge room that looked like a palace. There were more than 10 rooms inside. This was something Li Lingtian had specially changed at the last minute so that they could live together. While the girls were chatting in the room, Li Lingtian was meditating and resting in a separate room. For someone with his cultivation, it was usually very difficult for him to be injured. However, after he was injured and exhausted, it would take a long time for him to recover. Even if he had the heaven-defying pill, it wouldn't be so effective. The heaven-defying pill was to recover Jin Yuan, but it didn't help his divine sense at all. Therefore, he could only rely on himself to slowly recover. However, he was not in a hurry. In Qingxian, there was no one who could threaten him. Li Lingtian and the rest spaceship flew at high speed without encountering any danger. However, the war in Qingxian was not so simple. Tian Luo and Qing Luo, Dongming and Nanshao, Yen Lai and Blackwater had millions of soldiers under their city walls, attacking Qingxian. However, the Qingxian kingdom relied on a mysterious formation to keep the armies of the other kingdoms at bay. Even though there were many casualties, the armies of the various kingdoms had never been able to break through the defense in front of the city wall. This defense was a heaven-defying saint-tier formation, almost close to the existence of a divine formation. Countless armies had arrived at this place, but they were all killed by the endless offensive array. Even martial emperors and martial saints could not break this array. With this formation, Qing Xian's capital, southern mountain city, was not affected at all. However, countless armies, array masters, and experts were gathered at the city wall to fight. Even if the country fell, he would drag a few other countries down with him. Furthermore, the southern peak city of Qing Xian was the home of countless experts. Countless experts would never leave their homes and loved ones. They would swear their lives to stay with the southern peak city. In an instant, the morale of the southern mountain city in Qing Xian country soared. At the same time, the armies of the dozens of commanderies of Qing Xian were also rushing to Qing Xian. The armies were fighting with the armies of the other countries. The battle was in a stalemate for nearly a month. In the Tianluo Kingdom's army camp, countless experts gathered and discussed. This time, the 6 kingdoms had joined forces to deal with the Qing Xian kingdom. Their goal was to annex the Qing Xian kingdom and increase the resources and territory of their own kingdoms. The 6 kingdoms had joined forces because they were eyeing the declining power of Qing Xian. Moreover, Qing Xian was rich in resources. If they could control these resources, they would be able to develop their kingdoms even more. At the same time, the rankings of the various countries were about to begin. Although Qing Xian was not the strongest, it was still a potential threat. Therefore, the 6 countries had joined forces to eliminate one by one. At that time, they would obtain even more benefits. Brother Qing, we can't continue like this. If we still can't take down the Qing Xian kingdom with the 6 kingdoms joining forces, it would be a disgrace. Moreover, it would be disadvantageous for us if we continue to waste our energy like this. Tianluo Kingdom's Grand Elder Qing Tianfeng looked at the Qing Luo Kingdom's Grand Elder and said seriously. There were more than 10 martial saint powerhouses in this tent. There were even a few 3rd heaven martial saint powerhouses and even more 9th heaven martial emperors. These people were all in charge of this battle. If they were to lose here, they would not have a good expression when they returned. After all, even among martial saints, the competition between them was very strong. There's nothing we can do about it. I didn't expect that Qing Xian would have a formation that is close to the divine level. Qing Lanyun revealed a bitter smile. He was one of the few 3rd sky martial saints. He was terrifyingly powerful. In this place, he could definitely be considered one of the top 3 experts. Therefore, his status was also very extraordinary. Their identities were extraordinary and they did not dare to participate in the battle openly. Otherwise, that array formation would have been broken long ago. However, if this continued, they could not sit still anymore. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage King Myriad. Everyone is welcome to read it and save it. I recommend it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 622, Array Plate 1, Brother Dongming, it seems that your Dongming country has an array disk, right? The tent was completely silent. Lai Xie from the southern school nation looked at the eastern light nation's eastern light Lihua and said indifferently with a smile on his face. Array disk? Everyone's eyes turned to look at the eastern light Lihua in unison, their faces revealing a shocked expression. Although they had never seen the array disk before, they knew how powerful it was. Even a god-level array could be broken by the array disk. It was a super treasure that could break array formations. The array disk did not have any offensive or defensive properties, but it was a divine artifact. If he had this array disk, he would be able to break through southern mountain city easily after destroying the array in the Qing Xian kingdom. Then, the Qing Xian kingdom would truly collapse. My Dongming country does have an array disk. It's a divine artifact, but it's very difficult to activate. If it could be easily activated, I would have used the array disk long ago. There was no need for everyone to wait here. Li Hua Dongming had a faint smile on his face. His hatred for Li Xia had already reached the depths of his bones. This array disc was the treasure of the Dongming country. Very few people knew that the Dongming country was able to stand firmly among all the other countries because of this array disc. Similarly, the treasure that this array disc used to break a god rank array formation was also a god rank array formation. Otherwise, his Dongming country would not be so stable. Is it very difficult to activate this disc array? Qing Lanyun looked at the Eastern Light Li Hua. An old fox like him naturally understood that the Eastern Light country would not take out the array disc so easily. The difficulty of activating it was just an excuse. He also understood how important a divine weapon was to a country. Even he was not willing to take it out easily. However, at this critical juncture of their joint attack on Qing Xian, he did not wish to expose them. As long as the Eastern Light Li Hua took out the array disc to break the array formation of Qing Xian, it would be fine. No matter what the price was, it was not important. This array disc is the treasure of Dongming country and also the place to protect Dongming country. As long as the array disc is used, Dongming country's defense will be weakened. Do you understand what I mean? Because it concerns the safety of Dongming country, I have to plan for Dongming country. Li Hua Dongming also knew that he had no choice but to take out this array disc. He could only raise the conditions a little. This way, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Brother Dongming, please speak your mind. We can discuss this. Besides, we're on the same boat now. We have to think about everyone. Qing Tianfeng understood the meaning behind the Eastern Light Fire. It was nothing more than to gain some advantage. Otherwise, he would not have taken out this divine artifacts array disc. That's right, Brother Dongming, everyone is waiting now. It has been a long time since we attacked the Qing Xian kingdom. If we delay any longer, even if we take down the Qing Xian kingdom, we will be laughed at by the other kingdoms. At the same time, we have expended too much energy. Even if we take down the Qing Xian kingdom, it won't count. Yan Ligua's supreme elder Duan Muling said. Yan Ligua and the Blackwater kingdom were relatively far away from the Qing Xian kingdom. Hence, they didn't receive many benefits. Therefore, they weren't very important. However, if he didn't take the benefits, he would be letting himself down. In any case, he would not suffer any losses. As long as he could obtain some benefits, it would be fine. We're all here. If you have any conditions, Brother Dongming can just state them. Everyone, do as you see fit. Wenren Wuyu, the supreme elder of the Blackwater kingdom, smiled and looked at Duan Muling. They had the same thought. Since that's the case, I won't say much. My Dongming country wants Nandu Prefecture. Seeing that the important figures of the various countries had spoken, it was time for Li Hua to raise his conditions. This condition was indeed a little high, but it was negotiable. These were all old foxes. If his requirements were too low, they would still be lowered when the time came. It was better to raise the conditions a little. No. No. Absolutely not. This is impossible. Impossible. It's impossible in Nandu County. After Dongming Li Hua said it, everyone objected, their expressions extremely intense. It was impossible to get Nandu Prefecture. The resources of Nandu Prefecture were equivalent to half of Qing Xian. Moreover, its location was extremely important. If it was given to Dongming, the attack on Qing Xian would be in vain. They were all here for the resources of Qing Xian kingdom. If they gave away the most important commandery, what was the point? Then I have no choice. After all, if Dongming loses this array disc, its defense will be reduced by half. How can Nandu Prefecture compare to Dongming? Seeing that everyone was against it, Li Hua Dongming was already mentally prepared and had already thought of this. However, even if he didn't want Nandu Prefecture, he wouldn't let go so easily. Nandu County is impossible. We've already agreed that Nandu Prefecture will be controlled by the 6 countries. We can't hand it over to any other country. Qing Tianfeng's face was filled with anger, but it was not a good time to offend Dongming Li Hua, so he could only suppress his anger and speak coldly. They all understood the importance of Nandu Prefecture, so they naturally would not take it out. Since that's the case, Dongming country wants 30% of the profits. Li Hua of the Eastern Light muttered to himself for a long time before changing the conditions. He looked at everyone. He had the intention of backing out if they didn't get along. Everyone could see this clearly, but they also understood that Eastern Light Li Hua was doing this on purpose. Similarly, now that the initiative was in the hands of the Eastern Bright Li Hua, they had no other choice. In the end, they all agreed. After all, they had wasted a lot of time in Qingxian. If this continued, it would not be good for everyone. The next day, the army of millions stopped. The entire army was reorganized. However, hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses had arrived in front of Qingxian's array. On the city walls of Qingxian, countless experts were puzzled when they saw the Six Kingdoms stop attacking the city. However, they soon noticed that something was wrong. These martial monarch realm experts had formed a formation and wanted to use it to break the formation of Qingxian. Not good, the other party is going to use an array to break through the defensive array. The supreme expert of Qingxian exclaimed when he saw this scene. His eyes also turned to Shenyuan Bailing with a solemn expression. "Uncle, do you have any ideas?" Shenyuan Bailing was only a 9th-level martial emperor expert. His cultivation was already very powerful. However, he did not dare to be disrespectful in front of a martial saint. Although the outside world did not know that Qingxian had a martial saint, there were still a few martial saint experts hidden in the country. This was an open secret between each commandery and each country. Otherwise, these commanderies and countries would have long disappeared. However, these martial saints were bound by the divine martial continent's iron law and would not participate in the war. Even if they were to fight, it would be with martial saints. In fact, these martial saints were also the main strength of a commandery and other countries. If a country had one more martial saint, the other countries would not dare to provoke them easily. Although they couldn't participate in the war, if they were angered, they could secretly join forces to eliminate the experts in your country. In this way, no matter how powerful you were, without a martial saint, you could only wait to decline. A martial saint who did not participate in the war was indeed the key to the war. Now, we can only see if the other party can break the formation. The other party has 14 martial saints while our Qingxian kingdom only has 5. They have already calculated this. Shenyuan Qingfeng looked at the array formation and the army in the distance, and his expression kept changing. He was a martial saint, and he was also a super expert at the peak of the third sky of the martial saint realm. However, he was not the slightest bit careless now because the other party still had a few third sky martial saints. There were only 2 level 3 experts in Qingxian. Besides the level 3 experts, the other 3 were all level 1 experts. On the other hand, the other side had 4 third heaven martial saints and 4 first and second heaven martial saints. With such strength, whether it was the army or the hidden strength, it was not as strong as the combined strength of the 6 countries. The destruction of Qingxian was inevitable. However, when the time came for the country to fall, it would be best to bring the talented cultivators of Qingxian away so that they would not be completely wiped out. I wonder what young master is thinking. Shenyuan Bailing revealed a bitter smile on his face. He had originally wanted to contact the Tianhe region, but he had never expected that the young master would actually attack the Qingxian kingdom after coming here. Not only did he not help them, but he also took advantage of the situation. He did not understand what this meant. Moreover, the Qingxian kingdom originally belonged to him. But now, he was attacking his own country. Wasn't this a joke? If I'm not mistaken, young master wants to clean up the entire Qingxian kingdom. When the time comes, we will meet here. After all, the commanderies under Qingxian will not send their elite soldiers here. Young master, you can mess up this formation so that the other countries can't see clearly. At the same time, you can also tidy up Qingxian. I just hope that young master can achieve his goal before Qingxian is completely destroyed. Otherwise, he won't be able to do anything if the armies of the six dynasties go up against him. Xianyuan Gucheng gently stroked his beard with a smile on his face. However, this smile didn't last long because the situation in Qingxian was really bad. Looking at the situation, the other party's formation really had a way to break the formation. At that time, Southern Mountain City would really be destroyed. I wonder if there is any news from young master. When Xianyuan Bailing heard Xianyuan Gucheng's words, he felt much more at ease. At least the young master was still here. If the young lord could stabilize his footing, even if the Qingxian kingdom was destroyed, it would not be a big deal. He then asked the people beside him. Although they didn't inquire about Nandu County, they were still very concerned about the army of Nandu County. Returned to the country, Nandu Commandery has conquered 16 commanderies and has arrived at Tianshan Commandery. It seems that the main force has become the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion. The Divine Wind Legion is made up of martial emperors while the Divine Dragon Legion is made up of martial honors. Their banner has also changed to the banner of the Li family. A martial emperor powerhouse answered respectfully and explained the situation of the Nandu County army. Xianyuan Bailing and the others were stunned when they heard that. An army formed by a martial emperor and a martial honor was too terrifying. No wonder they kept sweeping over. It turned out that such an army existed. Chapter 623, A Strong Appearance, 1, What? Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion. Tell me more about them. Xianyuan Qingfeng looked at the martial emperor powerhouse with a sharp gaze. Xianyuan Bailing and the others looked at the martial emperor powerhouse curiously. The Divine Wind Legion has about 50,000 people. They all form formations. The Divine Dragon Army has 20,000 people. They also use the same formation, so they are invincible wherever they go. Moreover, the commanders of the two armies are super experts at the third sky of the Martial Saint realm. There's another problem. The Martial Saint experts in the commanderies that were attacked have disappeared. When the Martial Emperor's guards saw the monarch and the few supreme elders, their bodies trembled. After all, he was a martial emperor. In front of the king and martial saints, he was just an ant. Young master is young master. He actually gave up on the others and directly established his own army. Wherever he went, he would be invincible. But where did those martial saints and martial sovereigns go? Xianyuan Gucheng looked excited. With such a speed, they had conquered 16 commanderies in less than a month. This was simply sweeping the world. When they arrived here, both legions had more than 100,000 people. Although there were only 100,000 troops, such an army would be invincible wherever it passed. It was like a sharp weapon. Moreover, there were array formations inside, so there were not many troops that could stop it. Not good. Just as the few of them were excited, they suddenly realized that the 6 countries led by the Tianluo kingdom had already begun to attack the array formation. The attack this time was not a large army, but a shocking array cast by hundreds of martial monarch realm experts. Hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses gathered together and formed a formation that was 1,000 meters in radius. In the middle was a 9th-level martial emperor powerhouse who had a huge array disc in his hand. The disc array emitted a dazzling light, like the sun in the sky. All the martial emperor powerhouses activated their true origin and shot the array disc in the middle of the true Yuan dynasty. Instantly, the array disc shone brightly. All the spiritual energy in the world was rushing towards the array disc. The earth trembled and collapsed, and the sound shook the sky. Boom! Right at this moment, the light on the formation plate received sufficient Jin Yuan and emitted a huge light pillar. The light pillar tore through the void and bombarded the formation of Qingxian. With a shocking explosion, the array shook violently as if it was about to break at any moment. The world was dark, as if the end of the world was coming. The countless experts and soldiers on the city wall were all extremely shocked, and their faces were pale. They all knew that if this continued, the formation would be destroyed soon. With the formation destroyed, how long would the city walls last? At that time, Southern Mountain City would be destroyed as well. After a loud explosion, the ground trembled non-stop. The light on the array plate weakened significantly. However, hundreds of Martial Emperor powerhouses poured their true energy into it again. With the entry of their true energy, the array plate erupted with a shocking pillar of light again. The pillar of light smashed fiercely onto the array. Tisk! The array formation trembled, and cracks appeared in the space. The appearance of this crack caused Xianyuan Guqing's expression to change drastically. This crack meant that the array was about to be broken. The other party would destroy this array formation at most 10 times. Boom! Boom! The array formation was constantly bombarded, and the array formation began to weaken. It could break at any time. Xianyuan Beiling, give up. Let's see how long your array can last. The Qing Xian kingdom will be destroyed sooner or later. At that time, let's see how you die. Cheng Yueshao, the monarch of Tianluo Kingdom, shouted loudly with a sinister smile on his face. As the monarch of the other kingdoms, he was usually polite. Now that Qing Xian Kingdom was about to be destroyed, he suddenly thought of the fate of Xianyuan Beiling, the monarch of Qing Xian Kingdom. Naturally, he had to make a few sarcastic remarks. Qing Yueshao, come and kill me if you have the ability. When did Qing Yueshao join forces with you? Xianyuan Beiling was stunned when he heard Qing Yueshao's words. Anger surged in his heart, but his expression remained unchanged. He looked at Qing Yueshao with a smile and retaliated loudly. Ah, this is the last strike. The formation of your Qing Xian kingdom has been shattered. Qing Yueshao laughed out loud. He waved his hand and waved the flag beside him. The array plate glowed brightly. The pillar of light formed and quickly bombarded the array. When the ruler and the army saw this pillar of light, their faces were filled with excitement. This was because as long as this pillar of light fell, the formation would be broken and the protection of Qing Xian would disappear. At that time, it would be the time when Qing Xian was destroyed. The countless soldiers and experts on the walls of Southern Peak City looked at the pillar of light with despair. His eyes were filled with despair, as if this beam of light had become the Grim Reaper's scythe that would destroy Southern Mountain City. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion sounded as expected, and the pillar of light bombarded the array. All the experts and soldiers of Qing Xian country felt their hearts turn ashen because this pillar of light was the key to destroying the formation. However, the explosion came as expected, but the array formation did not shatter. Rumble! Another earth-shattering explosion occurred. The light pillar that had struck the array formation was bounced back, and the light pillar directly blasted towards the army of the 6 states. Instantly, the pillar of light destroyed everything within a radius of 1,000 meters. Within a radius of 1,000 meters, all the armies were reduced to nothingness. A huge empty space appeared in the middle. With this, the army of over 10,000 was destroyed. This change stunned everyone. The armies of the 6 states were all dumbfounded, not knowing what was going on. He clearly saw that the array would be destroyed if the pillar of light hit it. However, how could this pillar of light be reflected back and even destroy his army? The army and experts on the city wall looked at the sky in confusion. He had clearly hit the array just now, but a strange force had appeared on the array. This force had already exceeded the range of the force. Just as everyone was in shock, a young man floated in the air. The young man had his hands behind his back and a smile appeared on his face. His entire person was extremely relaxed and unrestrained, as if he was an otherworldly figure. Seeing this young man, the army of the 6 dynasties and the people on the city walls were both shocked and puzzled. What was surprising was that the change just now was definitely the work of this young man. To be able to change the direction of the pillar of light, one could only imagine how miraculous this method was. What puzzled him was who this young man was and why he had appeared here. There were more than 10 martial saint powerhouses, hundreds of martial emperor powerhouses, and countless martial venerables and martial emperors present. However, none of them saw how this young man had appeared. Yes, young master. At this moment, Xianyuan Dao looked at the young man in the sky and trembled with excitement. He was the only person who had seen this young man before, so he naturally recognized him. The young man in the sky was none other than Li Lingtian. He had been here for a few hours but had not entered the city. Instead, he was observing the situation. What? Young master? Xianyuan Beiling, Xianyuan Qingfeng, and the others were all shocked and excited. They had never expected Li Lingtian to come to southern Peak City in Qingxian Nation and to block the light pillar at the critical moment. They had also discovered Li Lingtian's heaven-defying strength. Just his elegance and calmness alone was enough to garner the admiration of countless people. Return to the country lord, return to the Grand Elder. He is the young lord. Xianyuan Dao looked at Li Lingtian with admiration in his eyes. As expected. Xianyuan Gucheng looked at Li Lingtian with a happy expression on his face. It was as though it was within reason or expected. Big brother, did you predict that the young master would appear? Xianyuan Qingfeng looked at Xianyuan Gucheng and asked. They knew that Xianyuan Gucheng was good at divination, but they didn't expect him to be so accurate. Yes. I just didn't expect it to be so fast. I didn't expect young master to be so powerful. Xianyuan Gucheng nodded, his face filled with excitement. Her eyes were fixed on Li Lingtian in the air, wondering what Li Lingtian would do next. Who is this expert? Tell me your name. The Six Nations army was shocked when they saw Li Lingtian in the sky. It was indeed not simple for a person to be so calm in the face of an army of millions. Moreover, he had no choice but to take precautions after changing the direction of the light beam. Even if the young man in the sky was only a martial emperor powerhouse, he was not an ordinary martial emperor since he could change the direction of the light beam. Trash! Li Lingtian looked at the powerhouse who spoke with disdain in his eyes as he uttered two words coldly. Whoosh! All of a sudden, all the experts and the army were in an uproar. This young man actually said the word trash in disdain when others asked him nicely. The person who spoke was the king of Tianluo Kingdom, Qingyueshao. He was also a 9th-level martial emperor, but he was called a good-for-nothing in front of the army and experts. How could he accept this? Kill them. Qingyueshao was stunned for a moment before he flew into a rage. With a wave of his hand, he issued a kill order at Li Lingtian. Immediately, countless martial honors and martial emperors charged at Li Lingtian. The attacks in the sky flashed like meteors. Li Lingtian's position was just outside the array and closest to the Six Nations army. There was no need for him to enter the array. All the martial honors and martial emperor powerhouses were extremely excited. Wasn't it a piece of cake to kill a young man at the 3rd or 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm? Moreover, there were so many experts attacking him at the same time. You're courting death. Li Lingtian's expression was extremely cold as he looked at the martial honored and martial emperor powerhouse flying toward him with a disdainful expression. The true essence in his entire body circulated, and the will of the way of metal emitted. Suddenly, a murderous aura and destructive metal will wreak havoc in the space. At this moment, a light flashed between his eyebrows. A crystal-clear sword appeared in front of him, spinning non-stop. With one hand and one body, his eyes became even colder. Heavenly Fault Sword. Myriad Swords Return. A cruel smile appeared on his face as he waved his hand and a ball of light appeared in his hand. The ball of light turned into countless sharp swords. With him as the center, the world of swords was everywhere within 1,000 meters. Destructive sword intent and sword chi soared into the sky, shattering the space inch by inch. Chapter 624, The Tyrannical Return of 10,000 Swords. The terrifying sword intent and the endless world of swords. Sword chi, sword light and sword silk formed a sword net. The sword net continued to spin, and the color of the world changed. The sharp swords in the hands of countless experts also came to this world uncontrollably. Seeing the sword formation in the sky, all the armies and experts paled. Boom! The space shook and cracked. 10,000 swords flew out together, blasting towards the super experts who were flying up from below. Sharp swords, tens of thousands of sharp swords shot down, but there was a magical formation between them, and there was a trace of connection. Even if it was a spirit weapon, its power would be 10 times stronger in this array. Ah, chi, tens of thousands of swords flew at the same time. It was already too late for countless experts to dodge even if they wanted to. Countless experts in the air were destroyed by the sword chi and sword light. Even if they dodged the sword chi, they could not dodge the bombardment of the sharp sword. Instantly, the experts in the sky fell like rain. Yes. With a faint voice, the sword formation in the sky disappeared. Similarly, the hundreds of experts who flew over all died under this attack. In the air, the figure was even more unrestrained, giving off an unstoppable aura. There was no one else in the air, only that figure, a graceful and elegant figure. All the experts died, and the army was stunned. Their eyes were filled with terror. The heavenly fault sword in Li Lingtian's hand disappeared along with the 10,000 swords. He hovered in the air and looked down disdainfully. Qing Yuexiao's mind was shaken, and his expression kept changing. At this moment, he no longer had the courage to speak to the young man in the air. With just one sentence, hundreds of martial honors and martial emperors were killed instantly. If this continued, even if the 60 countries joined forces, their experts would be destroyed, let alone the 6 countries. Naturally, Li Lingtian knew that Qing Yuexiao was a despicable person who had gotten his way. That was why he did not hesitate to use myriad returning swords right from the start. He wanted to teach Qing Yuexiao a lesson and give him a devastating blow. I said that you guys are trash, but you guys still refuse to admit it. Aren't we going to attack Qing Xian? Alright then, I will grant your wish. If you don't conquer Qing Xian within 10 days, I will destroy all 6 of your countries. Li Lingtian spoke indifferently as he stared coldly at the 6 nations' army. As he spoke, his entire body exuded a shocking aura that made the entire army tremble. The aura of a single person could suppress an army of millions. How many people in this world could have such an aura? Even a martial saint powerhouse did not have such calmness, nor did he have such courage and imposing manner. If you dare to escape, I will destroy your 6 states and slaughter them all, leaving no one alive. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already on top of the city wall. This sentence shocked all the experts and armies in the world. The 6 nations had joined forces to attack Qing Xian. Now that the army was already at the city gates, Li Lingtian had actually said something like that. Did he really think that the 6 nations' armies would flee? This was undoubtedly the greatest insult and challenge, making people in a dilemma. At the same time, they were stunned when they noticed Li Lingtian's strange appearance on the city wall. Other people could not pass through this array formation, but this young man completely ignored it in front of the array formation. What kind of concept was this? This array was in existence close to the divine level, yet it was able to come and go as it pleased despite being ignored by a martial emperor. On the city wall, countless powerhouses and soldiers were also shocked. Even though Li Lingtian had helped Qing Xian, they were still extremely worried when they arrived on the city wall. Because they didn't know this young expert. If he was a spy, he would be finished. However, what happened next stunned the millions of experts and soldiers of Qing Xian. They could not believe what they were seeing. This subordinate welcomes young master. This subordinate greets the young lord. Xianyuan Balan, the monarch of Qing Xian Kingdom, as well as a few elders and core figures on the stage, half knelt before Li Lingtian. They were extremely respectful as if they had seen their master. Everyone was stunned. What was going on? Could it be that Xianyuan Bailing had gone crazy? But since the other great elders were bowing like this, it was definitely not that they were crazy, but that this young man's identity was too terrifying. Could it be someone from the kingdom? Something was wrong. The kingdom was powerful, but it had nothing to do with the other countries. What shocked them even more was that not only did this young man not return the greeting, but he also completely ignored Xianyuan Bailing and the others. His eyes were fixed on the array in the distance. After a long time, he turned around and looked at Xianyuan Beiling and the others with a sharp gaze as if he was examining them. Get up. Li Lingtian spoke calmly with a calm expression on his face. He completely ignored the stunned army and powerhouses. Thank you, young master. Young master has descended to Qingxian, but we did not welcome you. Please punish us, young master. Xianyuan Beiling and the others stood up after bowing again. They looked respectful like obedient babies. Just settle your own matters. Don't worry about the things in front. Just clean up the mess when the time comes. Li Lingtian's tone was still calm as he pointed at the millions of troops ahead. If the 6 nations' armies dared to cross the array, he would definitely annihilate them there and never leave Qingxian. His goal was to let the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion gain some experience. As for those martial saints, it was fine if they did not come out. If they did, he would kill them all. This subordinate will obey. Xianyuan Beiling replied respectfully. This was just nice. With Li Lingtian's arrival, he would not have to worry about the battle before him. He wanted to see what kind of heaven-defying ability Li Lingtian had. Otherwise, he would not have crossed the border from the Tianhe region. Soon after, Xianyuan Beiling introduced Li Lingtian to everyone. Immediately, all the troops and super powerhouses paid their respects. This subordinate greets young Master D. This subordinate joins the young master. Xianyuan Beiling and the others had already thought of a way to address him. The world would not be quiet in the future. Since Li Lingtian had come out this time and attracted the attention of others, there was no need to hide it. Young Master D was just a title. He swept across the Black Continent and fought for the world. Another meaning was that the Xianyuan family itself was a great emperor. They could address Li Lingtian as young master, but the other powerhouses and subjects could not address him as young master. They were not qualified to address him as young master, so it was just right for them to address him as young emperor. Li Lingtian shook his head in his heart and decided to ignore them. Soon after, Li Lingtian and the rest left the city wall and were brought to the Qingxian Kingdom's imperial palace. Tang Qingyue and the rest spaceship entered the city at the same time. Everyone knew that these people were young master the Arch Li Lingtian's wife and maid. When they arrived at the imperial palace, the important figures and higher-ups of Qingxian were all gathered in the main hall. This subordinate greets young master. This subordinate greets the princess and the young madam. All the core members of the Qingxian kingdom bowed respectfully once again. There were no outsiders in this place, so they naturally wouldn't notice anything. The people here had never seen Xianyuan Yingying before, but they all heard that the princess was peerless and was the future of the Xianyuan family. Now, after seeing her, they were all stunned. Xianyuan Yingying's beauty was incomparable even in the Black Continent. Moreover, the few wives of the young master were all peerless existences, not inferior to Princess Xianyuan Yingying in the slightest. They were all envious and worshipped. Only a son of heaven like the young master could have so many beautiful wives. There is no need to be so polite in front of me. Li Lingtian waved his hand and sat down casually, not caring about where he sat. However, the other girls stood beside Li Lingtian and did not take a seat. Seeing that Xianyuan Yingying and the others were not seated, the others naturally did not dare to take a seat. Even though they were Li Lingtian's wives or maids and had sisters, they could act without restraint when they were alone with Li Lingtian. However, they still had to be polite when they were outside. After the greeting, Li Lingtian did not want to make things difficult for Xianyuan Beiling and the others. After all, they were the higher-ups of Qingxian and had a certain amount of face and status. Then, he asked someone to bring them to rest. Seeing this, Xianyuan Beiling and the others heaved a sigh of relief and were extremely grateful. A few palace maids led Li Lingtian and the others deeper into the palace. The palace here was no different from the palaces in the secular world, but it was much larger and the spiritual qi inside was extremely dense. Kiki, Kiki. A sweet voice rang out in the imperial palace. The voice was crisp and clear, making one's heart feel extremely calm. Li Lingtian was stunned. The innocent voice was so pleasing. It sounded like Ge and Shenyuan Yingying's voice, but the laughter sounded like that of a 5 or 6-year-old. Just as Li Lingtian was in a daze, a petite voice ran over. As it was a turn, the little girl was not paying attention and bumped into Li Lingtian. As an adult, Li Lingtian was not affected at all. However, the little girl was flung to the ground and fell on her butt. Little princess, why did you fall? Little princess, are you all right? Seeing the little girl fall, 2 anxious voices sounded. It was obviously the voice of the palace maids. Ouch! The little girl plopped onto the ground with tears in her eyes. However, she did not cry out loud. Instead, she stared curiously at Li Lingtian and the others. Li Lingtian and the others had a good look at the girl. She was about 5 or 6 years old. The girl was pink and toot. Even a man like Li Lingtian could not help but like the girl and feel fatherly love for her. Tang Qingyue and the others were the same. They liked this little girl very much. You guys. The 2 palace maids turned around and were about to question the person who had knocked the little princess over. However, their voices were immediately lowered when they saw the temperament of Li Lingtian and the others. Even the prince and the princess were not as good as them. Exploding, please vote. Chapter 625, Shenyuan Qingqing. Li Lingtian and the rest did not look at the palace maids but at the little girl who was knocked down on the ground. The little girl was extremely cute. Her little face was toot and her pair of clear and lively eyes were innocent, as if they could purify a person's soul. The empty spirit body is really interesting. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face as he looked at the palace maids. He muttered to himself. His voice was so soft that he could almost hear it. However, Huangfu Yuyan and the others beside him heard it clearly. Are you sure it's the void spirit body? Huangfu Yuyan looked at Li Lingtian as she spoke softly. With her cultivation base, experience, and foresight, she could not tell, but she had heard of the mystical existence of the void spirit body. Naturally, they were shocked to hear Li Lingtian's words. Although he knew that Li Lingtian was knowledgeable, he could not believe that he was so lucky to have encountered an empty spirit body. That's right, it's the ethereal body. If it wasn't for my divine soul's eye, I wouldn't have been able to see it clearly. Moreover, this ethereal body is invisible. Even a martial god expert wouldn't be able to see it at all. Similarly, this ethereal body requires a certain method to be activated. As Li Lingtian spoke slowly, the girls listened and their eyes were fixed on the toot little girl. At that moment, a few palace maids had already helped the little girl up. At that moment, they did not know if they should blame Li Lingtian and the others or leave. They could only stand rooted to the ground. What's your name? Li Lingtian looked at the little girl with a faint smile on his face. There was even a hint of kindness in his smile. Based on his experience and foresight, he believed that only a prince or princess or the royal family would be able to play around in the palace. My name is Shenyuan Qingqing. Who are you? This is the imperial palace. Why are you here? When the little girl heard Li Lingtian's question, she answered boldly without a trace of fear on her face. There was also a look of curiosity and envy in her eyes. In her eyes, she had never seen a group of beautiful fairies before. Even the man in front of her was extremely carefree and gave people a kind feeling. When he saw the beautiful big sister, he naturally became much closer. Oh, Shenyuan Qingqing, not bad. Shenyuan Yingying said happily. Naturally, she was happy that this little girl belonged to the Shenyuan family because Li Lingtian had just mentioned that she possessed the void spirit body. Who are you guys? Shenyuan Qingqing looked at Li Lingtian and the others and asked again. This was because very few outsiders came into the palace. Even during this period of war, the palace was extremely quiet. The people inside did not know what was going on outside. Qingqing, don't be rude. At this moment, a man's voice was heard, followed by a series of hurried footsteps. He was running over quickly. Li Lingtian ignored the person behind him as he already knew who it was. He also roughly understood the identity of this little girl, and the corners of his mouth revealed a faint smile. This subordinate greets young master. This is my granddaughter, Xianyuan Qingqing. She offended young master just now. Please punish her. Xianyuan Beiling came before Li Lingtian. Upon seeing everything before him, he understood something and quickly apologized. However, his apology stunned the palace maids and little girls. Xianyuan Beiling was the ruler of Qing Xian country, a supreme existence. In their eyes, Xianyuan Beiling was like a ruler. However, at this moment, he was so respectful in front of this young man. How could they not be shocked? It's fine. You can leave first. Li Lingtian waved his hand, his expression unchanged. At that moment, Li Lingtian's guide was jolted awake. His face was ashen and he was at a loss for words. Qingqing, come here. Li Lingtian waved at Xianyuan Qingqing to signal her to come over. Yes. Xianyuan Qingqing didn't know what to do. She was only 6 or 7 years old, but she was naturally afraid when she saw Xianyuan Beiling being so respectful to this young man. In the imperial palace, etiquette was very important. Hence, she did not know how to address Li Lingtian when she arrived before him. He looked at Xianyuan Beiling, who was standing at the side, but he didn't have the slightest intention to speak when he saw him. This is Xianyuan Yingying. You can call her aunt from now on. Yes, you can call me uncle from now on. Are you willing to play with them? We've seen a lot of fun things outside. Li Lingtian reached out and stroked Xianyuan Qingqing's head with a kind smile on his face. He then pointed at Xianyuan Yingying and spoke softly. When he finished speaking, he realized that he was like a big bad wolf deceiving a little sheep. The girls behind him giggled because this was the first time they had seen Li Lingtian so amusing. Similarly, he could see fatherly love in Li Lingtian. Xianyuan Beiling, who was standing at the side, was completely stunned. He didn't expect that the powerful and domineering young master would actually have such a fun side. At the same time, they were also extremely shocked. Calling him imperial uncle was a title that only the royal family could have. Only the imperial family could have such a title in the empire. Li Lingtian did not intend to turn Qing Xian into an empire. Unknowingly, he noticed Li Lingtian's domineering aura and disdain for the world. Moreover, if Xianyuan Qingqing addressed Li Lingtian as imperial uncle, would that not mean that Li Lingtian was a generation lower than him? Besides, Xianyuan Qingqing was extremely adorable and everyone in the imperial palace loved her. However, he did not believe that Li Lingtian would like Xianyuan Qingqing that much. That was what he was curious about. Aunt, uncle. Where are they? Naturally, Xianyuan Qingqing was smart enough to know that Li Lingtian was not a simple person since her grandfather was so respectful to this young man. Furthermore, she could sense Li Lingtian's kindness and closeness. She greeted Xianyuan Yingying and Li Lingtian sweetly and looked extremely obedient. She then looked at Huangfu Yuyan and the rest and asked Li Lingtian curiously. You should call them aunties too. Li Lingtian replied with a smile. Huangfu Yuyan and the others were all girls and they were forever young. They would forever look like they were only 17 or 18 years old. Naturally, it would be more appropriate for them to call her aunt. After that, Xianyuan Yingying and Xianyuan Qingqing introduced Huangfu Yuyan and the others. Xianyuan Qingqing greeted them one by one. Seeing so many beautiful aunts, Xianyuan Qingqing was naturally very happy. Let's go rest. Qingqing, you can play with your aunt and the others in the future. How about that? Li Lingtian waited for them to get to know each other before he spoke. He looked at Xianyuan Qingqing gently. The free and natural body was a miraculous physique. If it was cultivated and developed, it would become a powerful existence. He did have a fatherly love for Xianyuan Qingqing. He was 23 or 24 years old and had many beautiful women around him, but he couldn't have children now. Xianyuan Qingqing was undoubtedly his favorite junior. In the future, when they were together, he could also teach her cultivation and nurture her. Qingqing will listen to imperial uncle. Xianyuan Qingqing pondered for a while and then agreed happily. Soon, she was with Ji, Xianyuan Yingying, and Tang Zimeng. They were all playful people, and little girls naturally liked them very much. Go and tell Qingqing's father that I will train Qingqing in the future. Li Lingtian turned to look at Xianyuan Beiling as he spoke in an indifferent tone. He no longer had the gentleness he had shown Xianyuan Qingqing earlier. This was a change of a powerhouse. This subordinate understands. Xianyuan Beiling's face lit up with excitement. Although he did not know what Li Lingtian's motive was, he was sure that Xianyuan Qingqing had some secret that they did not know about. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had found out about this secret. If that was the case, Xianyuan Qingqing's achievements would be immeasurable if she were to be with Li Lingtian. Other things aside, Xianyuan Qingqing's status would soar if she were to be with Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian led Tang Qingyue and the others deeper into the palace. They were arranged to stay in Yuran Hall in the Qingxian Kingdom's palace. Yuran Palace in a side hall of the Qingxian Kingdom's imperial palace. However, the environment here was very good. It was quiet and beautiful, suitable for cultivation. It was spacious enough for Li Lingtian and the others to stay in. In Yuran Palace, Li Lingtian found a room to stay in. Tang Qingyue and the others did the same. There were originally countless palace maids in Yuran Palace, but Li Lingtian and the others had called most of them away. They were cultivators, so they didn't need palace maids. Even if something happened, they would do it themselves. Moreover, Qingping and the others were here. The remaining palace maids were all Xianyuan Qingqing's palace maids, so they could take care of her. After all, Xianyuan Qingqing was only a little over 6 years old, and she was still not used to life. She was born in the palace and basically had to eat and dress as she pleased. It was naturally impossible for her to live alone now. However, Li Lingtian had also said that he would have to do everything himself in the future. He had to train himself by doing it himself. Just as they settled down in the Yuran Palace Hall, Xianyuan Beiling brought a couple to the palace hall. This subordinate pays his respects to young master. Xianyuan Beiling bowed respectfully and stood at the side. Junior Xianyuan Pavilion greets young master. After the middle-aged couple bowed to Xianyuan Beiling, they also bowed respectfully. Their faces were filled with fear and trepidation. Have a seat. Li Lingtian waved his hand with a casual expression as he sized up the couple from head to toe. He also understood that this couple should be the fourth prince of Qingxian, the fourth son of Xianyuan Beiling. I'm very grateful that young master values Qingqing. It's also my honor. This subordinate wants to know what qualifications Qingqing has to be valued by the young master, and even the young master has to worry about Qingqing. Xianyuan Pavilion did not dare to beat around the bush in front of Li Lingtian. He was a shrewd prince. If he did not have the slightest bit of shrewdness in the palace, he would not be able to escape unscathed and become a sacrificial lamb. However, they dared not play any tricks in front of Li Lingtian now because all tricks and conspiracies were useless in front of a powerhouse. Therefore, he directly asked out of curiosity. Please vote for the 30th chapter. Chapter 626, Ethereal Body, 1, Have you discovered Qingqing's physique? Li Lingtian glanced at Xianyuan Pavilion indifferently. Even though it was just a glance, it gave Xianyuan Pavilion endless pressure as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him. He was also a martial-honored warrior, yet he felt such a terrifying pressure in front of Li Lingtian's gaze. However, Xianyuan Pavilion was stunned when he heard Li Lingtian's question. Xianyuan Qingqing couldn't cultivate, which was an open secret in the royal palace. In such a family and country, all the princes and princesses had to cultivate. However, Xianyuan Qingqing couldn't cultivate, which made the royal family speechless. Besides, Xianyuan Pavilion only had one son and one daughter. His status was also suppressed by his other brothers. Now that Li Lingtian had asked, Xianyuan Pavilion was naturally puzzled. Similarly, Xianyuan Beiling was puzzled as well. I only know that Qing can't cultivate, but I can't find the reason. In the royal family, I've looked for countless experts, but one couldn't find any clues. Could it be that young master knows about Qing's physique? The expression on Shenyuan Pavilion's face changed. He was a smart man. Li Lingtian must have known about Shenyuan Qing's physique since he was asking him. However, he regretted it after asking because his tone was a little interrogative. You naturally can't discover the void spirit body. Li Lingtian did not dwell on such a small detail. He retracted his gaze and gently sipped his tea before he casually mentioned Shenyuan Qing's physique. Empty spirit body? Empty spirit body. Shenyuan Bailing and Shenyuan Pavilion exclaimed. Although they did not know the origin of this physique, it did not sound bad. Instead, it was a very magical physique. That's right. The free and natural physique will only appear once in a trillion people. However, very few people will discover this physique. Even martial god experts might not be able to discover it. Qing has an ethereal body. Fortunately, I came in time. Otherwise, if I missed the time to cultivate, I wouldn't have any achievements in the future. This must be Qing's opportunity, so I personally nurtured her. Li Lingtian spoke at a moderate pace. His expression was calm as he looked at the Shenyuan Pavilion couple. After all, Qing was their daughter. If they were to send such a cute daughter away, they should be given a say. Thank you for your nurturing, young master. This is Qing's blessing. I'll have to trouble young master in the future. Shenyuan Pavilion stood up and bowed respectfully, revealing an excited expression. Although they were reluctant, if Shenyuan Qing did not cultivate, they could only watch their daughter die of old age. Now that Li Lingtian had discovered that there was a way to nurture Qing's physique, he was naturally very fortunate. Besides, Shenyuan Qing's status would be different if she were to follow Li Lingtian. I will treat Qing as my own daughter. You don't have to worry. Also, it's best for you to end the conflict of interests between you. I don't want to see internal strife. If you want to fight, go out and conquer the world. Li Lingtian's first few words were very soft and did not carry a hint of authority. However, his last sentence carried a supreme authority. Immediately, the three people from Shenyuan Pavilion felt a huge pressure, and they did not even dare to breathe loudly. We understand. Shenyuan Bailing was the first to bow and respectfully agreed. They understood that Li Lingtian's arrival was a time of chaos in the world. They would not have the slightest chance to fight for power. Moreover, there was no need to fight for the benefits of Qing. Shenyuan Pavilion was slightly disappointed when he heard Li Lingtian's words. However, he quickly calmed down and was happy for Qing. Even if he did not fight for power, with Shenyuan Qing around, his position was unshakable. He also understood that the world was not theirs but Li Lingtian's. They were shocked to hear Li Lingtian's words. It was impossible for them to have the courage to say such words. After Shenyuan Bailing and the other two explained the general situation in Qing to Li Lingtian, they left Yuran Palace. Li Lingtian also returned to his room to cultivate. He did not plan to cultivate much during this period of time. He was only familiarizing himself with some skills and divine abilities, cultivating heaven and earth reincarnation, true dragon's body barrier, and other cultivation techniques. He spent most of his time with Tang Qingyue and the others. After his cultivation reached the martial emperor realm, it would take him a long time to improve. Besides, Shenyuan Qing was already 6 years old. She would need to cultivate for a while. He had to bring out Shenyuan Qing's physique to the extreme and strive for her future achievements. After thinking for a long time, he finally thought of his heaven and earth reincarnation. Shenyuan Yingying could achieve the 5 elements sacred body while Shenyuan Qing had the empty spirit body. Both of them could cultivate the heaven and earth reincarnation art. Yingying didn't have a special cultivation technique now, so she could only cultivate the art of longevity. Only when they became husband and wife and achieved the 5 elements sacred body after dual cultivation would they cultivate the heaven and earth reincarnation technique. However, Shenyuan Qingqing was different. She had the empty spirit body, so she didn't have these restrictions. As long as she found a suitable cultivation technique and some other methods to activate the empty spirit body, her cultivation would increase exponentially. Qingqing, if you want to protect yourself, you have to become stronger. Do you want to become an expert? Li Lingtian called Shenyuan Qingqing to him with a gentle expression on his face. As he spoke softly, he held Shenyuan Qingqing with one hand and gently stroked her hair with the other. Understand. I want to become an expert like you, an almighty expert that everyone in the world fears. I won't embarrass you. Shenyuan Qingqing's tender face was filled with determination. She had been playing with Tang Qingyue and the others for the past few days. While they were playing, Tang Qingyue and the others told Shenyuan Qingqing about Li Lingtian. Shenyuan Qingqing was thrilled and admired him greatly. This was because the main character of these legendary stories was her imperial uncle. Although she was young, she could feel Li Lingtian's love for her. It was no less than her parents' love. Alright, I'll cultivate with Aunt and the others in the future. If you don't understand, you can ask Imperial Uncle. Now, I'll activate your empty spirit body. You can cultivate now. Li Lingtian was extremely pleased to see Shenyuan Qingqing's expression. He was a powerhouse, an ultimate powerhouse with a strong heart. Although Shenyuan Qingqing was very young, she could make him happy. As an elder, he was naturally very happy that a little girl could do this. Then, he asked Shenyuan Qingqing to sit on the stool. Shenyuan Qingqing already knew about some matters regarding cultivation. Naturally, she did not need Li Lingtian to teach her. Tang Qingyue and the others were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian and Shenyuan Qingqing. It was as if they had seen a warm home. Even though she wasn't her biological daughter, all girls had maternal instincts, so she liked Qingqing very much. Following that, Li Lingtian tried to infuse his 5 elements quintessential essence into Qingqing's body, using quintessential essence and Tao will to tidy up her meridians. In the end, Li Lingtian used all his abilities. After an hour, he finally stopped. His face was covered in sweat and looked extremely pale. Shenyuan Qingqing was in a meditative state, so she didn't sense anything in the outside world. Lingtian, how is it? Tang Qingyue and the others came to Li Lingtian and supported him. They asked with concern when they saw Li Lingtian's weak state. The empty spirit body can only be activated a little. I still feel that something is missing. But now that Qingqing can cultivate, she's no different from some geniuses. With the addition of cultivation techniques and pills, I believe that even those top geniuses can't compare. In the future, I'll think of a way to fully activate the empty spirit body. Li Lingtian shook his head. He was fully focused and did not dare to be careless. After all, Qingqing was still young and did not have a cultivation base. She could not withstand a martial emperor powerhouse's true origin. If he was not careful, Qingqing would disappear into thin air. Fortunately, he had finally activated Qingqing's empty spirit body a little, so there was no problem. He could only wait for Qingqing's cultivation to improve and have a greater tolerance. Then, he would think of a way to activate the empty spirit body. Okay, you rest first. Well, take care of Qingqing. Huang Fuyuyan handed Li Lingtian over to Shun Mei and Tang Zimeng as she spoke gently. They understood that Qingqing was like his biological daughter in Li Lingtian's heart. Li Lingtian returned to his room and meditated alone to regulate his breathing. Now that the war outside was imminent and the armies of the 6 dynasties were at the city gates, he could not act recklessly. He had to adjust himself to his best condition. After resting for 3 whole days, his condition finally reached its peak. By the time he came out, Shenyuan Qingqing was already able to cultivate. Coupled with the vitality pills, Shenyuan Qingqing had become a Tier 1 warrior in 3 days. Li Lingtian was extremely excited by this speed. Imperial Uncle. When Shenyuan Qingqing saw Li Lingtian come out, she pounced on him happily and threw herself into his arms in a coquettish manner. In the past, even if his parents doted on him, the Shenyuan Pavilion was busy with government affairs most of the time. There were also other things to do, and he had to maintain the image of the royal family. Naturally, he was rarely close. However, Li Lingtian was different now. He was the complete opposite of Shenyuan Pavilion. As a child, she naturally liked to be close to others. Moreover, Li Lingtian loved her so much that he was naturally very coquettish. Qingqing's progress is not bad. I'll reward you with one. Li Lingtian looked at Shenyuan Qingqing with a smile on his face as he reached out to hug her. After saying that, he kissed her cute little face, revealing his fatherly love. Thank you, Imperial Uncle. Shenyuan Qingqing's face flushed with excitement when she heard Li Lingtian's praise. She then planted a kiss on Li Lingtian's cheek. For a moment, the two of them were extremely intimate. Li Lingtian carried Shenyuan Qingqing to Huangfu Yuyan and the others. Shenyuan Qingqing clung to Li Lingtian and he had no intention of letting her degree. What's the situation outside? Li Lingtian asked Huangfu Yuyan. During a war between nations, opportunities were ever-changing. If anything were to happen during the 3 days he was recuperating, Qingxian Kingdom would be destroyed hundreds of times. Therefore, after coming out, he was concerned about the situation of the army outside. Continue to erupt, ask for monthly votes and recommendation votes, and also ask for tips. Chapter 627, Battle of Aura. 1. The armies of the 6 dynasties have arrived at the city gates, but there's been no movement at all. However, the armies of the 6 dynasties have sent in quite a number of experts. The Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion have also arrived at Southern Peak City. The two armies are confronting each other. Huangfu Yuyan roughly explained the situation outside. During this period of time, the 6 states' armies were stuck in a dilemma. They wanted to attack Qingxian, but they couldn't break the formation. If they did not attack, they would become a laughingstock if they retreated resentfully. Helplessly, the armies of the 6 dynasties could only send in more experts, wanting to wipe out Qingxian in one fell swoop. At the same time, the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion swept over like a tornado. The Divine Wind Legion consisted of 100,000 martial emperors while the Divine Dragon Legion consisted of 50,000 martial honors. Although the appearance of 2 legions wasn't proportional to the millions of soldiers, the lineup of 2 legions was still terrifying. Although the other kingdoms had armies of martial emperors and martial honors, they rarely took them out. No one had expected such an army to appear in the war between the countries. Naturally, it was terrifying. However, the armies of both sides did not make a move, as if they were waiting for something. Let's go to the top of the city wall to take a look. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment after he heard that. He then spoke calmly with a smile on his lips. Leave Qingqing behind. Tang Qingyue looked at Li Lingtian hugging Shenyuan Qingqing and said with concern. It was best not to let a little girl like Qingqing see the battle, lest it leave a scar on her. No, this world is like this. Girls need to see more. That way, they can better protect themselves. Although I can protect Qingqing, she's grown up. No matter what, she has to face it herself. Qingqing, are you afraid? Li Lingtian shook his head. He was aware of Tang Qingyue's concerns but his thoughts were different from hers. Tang Qingyue had maternal love, and her heart ached for Qingqing. He loved Qingqing, but he had to think about her future. Uncle, Qingqing is not afraid. Aunt, Qingqing is with Imperial Uncle. Don't be afraid. I won't embarrass Imperial Uncle. Shenyuan Qingqing's crisp and tender voice sounded. Her small hands clenched into fists, making a bold gesture. The group of girls burst into laughter. Li Lingtian reached out and pinched Shenyuan Qingqing's cheeks. The group of people walked towards the city wall. Although there were countless experts in the palace, the true experts had all gone to the city wall to prepare for a great battle at any time. The entire southern mountain city was extremely nervous. On the other hand, Li Lingtian and the others were extremely relaxed as if they were strolling in the backyard. Moreover, the few girls chatted and laughed from time to time, causing countless subjects to be amazed. However, they bowed respectfully when they saw Li Lingtian. They knew how powerful Li Lingtian was. He had killed all the martial emperor powerhouses in one move and his status was extraordinary. Naturally, he was respected. After half an hour, Li Lingtian and the others arrived at the top of the city wall. This subordinate greets the young lord. Greetings, young mistress. Greetings, fairies. All the powerhouses bowed respectfully when they saw Li Lingtian's arrival. However, they were puzzled when they saw Xianyuan Qingqing in Li Lingtian's arms. Xianyuan Qingqing was the daughter of the fourth prince. Few people knew about her, but some people still knew about her identity. Now that Xianyuan Qingqing was in Li Lingtian's arms, she was naturally curious. Uncle, there are so many people. Are they bad guys? Xianyuan Qingqing ignored the salutations from the rest of the people. Instead, she looked excitedly at the millions of soldiers outside the city wall. This imperial uncle stunned countless super experts and they were also incomparably shocked. Yes, they are bad guys. As long as they are hostile to themselves, they are all bad people. Li Lingtian waved his hand to signal for those who were saluting to stand up. However, his eyes were fixed on Xianyuan Qingqing who was in his arms. All his attention was on her. Qingqing knows. Xianyuan Qingqing replied sweetly before she obediently left Li Lingtian's embrace and went to Huangfu Yuyan and the others. Xian Yuan Dao and the others explained the defense and attack of the Qing Xian Kingdom's army and waited for Li Lingtian's opinion or order. If you want to become a true expert, if you want to become an invincible army, you have to train in a great war. When my Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion arrive, you will enter the army. Whether you will be reborn from the ashes or perish will be up to you. After hearing the report, Li Lingtian gave a brief explanation before he turned his gaze to the army of millions. Even if they were martial warriors, martial spirits, and martial kings, their auras were heaven-defying. If they were ordinary experts, they would have long been defeated by this aura. Your subordinates will obey. Xianyuan Gucheng nodded respectfully and then began to announce that he was ready for the battle. An army of millions against millions, the outcome of the battle was uncertain, and life and death were determined by fate. However, at the very least, there would not be any martial saints participating in this war. If martial saints participated, there would be no need for a war. Moreover, Qing Xian was defenseless against the armies of the 6 nations. However, with Li Lingtian's Divine Wind and the Divine Dragon Legion, the situation was different. Uncle, Aunt Meng Meng said that your icebound 10,000 mile is beautiful. Qingqing wants to see Uncle's icebound 10,000 mile. At this moment, Xianyuan Qingqing's sweet voice sounded. Although the voice was soft, the experts on the city wall could hear it clearly. Hearing Xianyuan Qingqing's words, they were all stunned. They actually wanted to see the young master's divine power skill. This was something that only this little girl dared to say. If it was any other powerhouse, even if they wanted to die, they would not dare to say such a thing. However, they could tell how much Li Lingtian loved this little girl. They all looked at Li Lingtian in unison. Xianyuan Gucheng and the others knew that Xianyuan Qingqing was with Li Lingtian. At this moment, they dared not reprimand her even if they wanted to. Qingqing wants to see the 10,000 miles of ice. Of course, there's no problem. Even if Qingqing wants the stars in the sky, I'll pluck them for you. Watch carefully. Li Lingtian was stunned as well before he looked at Xianyuan Qingqing with a smile. As he spoke, he pointed at the sky. Even if it was a star in the sky, he would pluck it down. Even though it was just a lie to a child, they could feel the love Li Lingtian had for Xianyuan Qingqing. Whoosh! All the powerhouses were in an uproar. They did not expect Li Lingtian to agree to it. After all, this was an almighty skill of a powerhouse and it was not something that could be easily used. At the same time, they were all curious to see Li Lingtian's abilities. The last time Li Lingtian killed countless martial emperor powerhouses with his myriad returning swords, they were still terrified. However, that was only one move. Now, He wanted to see how powerful Li Lingtian's other moves were. Li Lingtian's body disappeared mysteriously. When he reappeared, he was already 1,000 meters above the city wall. His entire body floated in the air, his clothes fluttering in the wind. He gave off a faint aura as he looked at the millions of soldiers in the distance. Boom! The space around them shook. Li Lingtian's aura suddenly surged and shook the space around him. The fourth heaven martial emperor realm exuded the aura of a martial saint. His aura was majestic, like a god of war who had descended upon the world, looking down on the world's experts. All the troops and powerhouses were shocked by Li Lingtian's imposing manner. He was alone in the space, but he could control the entire space as if he was the master of this space. Roar, roar, roar. Kill, kill, kill. Millions of soldiers from the 6 nations were terrified by Li Lingtian's appearance. Last time, the myriad returning swords had already left a shadow in the hearts of the 6 nations' army. It was as if they had seen the Grim Reaper when they saw Li Lingtian. Under the command of the martial emperor commander, the entire army gave off a shocking aura. Their aura was like a rainbow that shot straight into the 9 heavens. This was the aura and power of an army of millions. When they were united, even a martial saint would feel terrified when they encountered such an aura. With so many ants, they could kill an elephant. The aura of millions of soldiers gathered together was enough to fight against any martial emperor or martial saint. Roar! When Li Lingtian saw the imposing manner of the army of millions, he was shocked. However, it stimulated the fighting spirit in his body. It was difficult to meet an opponent. Finally, he encountered a terrifying aura. He also wanted to test how powerful this aura was. If he used his aura to suppress this army, it would be beneficial for the war. At the very least, he would suppress the aura of the millions of soldiers. The vital essence in his body circulated, the will of the 5 elements circulated, and the true dragon body protection circulated. The dragon energy condensed into a line like a hurricane. The voice was like a dragon's roar, and a terrifying sound wave with a shocking aura rushed towards the millions of soldiers. The army and the supreme experts on the city walls, as well as the supreme experts of the 6 dynasties, were all extremely shocked. What kind of expert was this? This was a true expert. Facing millions of soldiers and experts, he did not show any fear. Instead, he aroused his fighting spirit. This was a true expert. Tang Qingyue and the others looked at Li Lingtian with happiness and gentleness in their eyes. This was their man, a man of indomitable spirit. Boom! Space exploded as 2 destructive sound waves and auras collided. The earth trembled and space shattered. Li Lingtian's body flashed as he took a step back with a calm expression. The millions of soldiers below were in a mess. They were just an ordinary army of martial artists. Even if they were united and had a heaven-defying momentum, they had misjudged Li Lingtian. The sudden impact of the aura attacked his mind, leaving an indelible shadow in his heart. Show! All the soldiers and super experts were stunned. After a long time, they let out a breath of cold air. A single person was able to use his aura to fight against an army of millions, and he even had the upper hand. What kind of existence was this? Secretly, countless 9th Firmament Martial Emperor and Martial Saint powerhouses were astounded. They regarded Li Lingtian as their strongest opponent and understood that they had to kill this young man before they could defeat Qing Xian. This young man was too terrifying. If he was not killed, the 6 dynasties would not be able to break through the Qing mystic kingdom. Moreover, there were 2 terrifying legions eyeing them covetously. Chapter 628, Frozen 10,000 Miles, Destructive Battle. For a moment, the millions of soldiers and countless super experts fell silent. Outside the city wall, it was completely silent. Even the injured soldiers did not dare to make a sound, afraid to break this rare moment of silence. Li Lingtian hovered in the air like a god of war overlooking the world. Imperial Uncle is the best. At this moment, Shenyuan Qingqing's tender voice was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, breaking the silence of the entire battlefield. The ignorant were fearless. She had only seen Li Lingtian's strength and elegance, but she did not know how terrifying he truly was. My baby wants to see my 1,000 miles of ice. You guys are unlucky to be here. As Li Lingtian spoke, the aura around his body suddenly changed. The terrifying aura around him became faintly discernible. All the powerhouses were rendered speechless. Li Lingtian was the only one who could toy with the enemy's army when their own treasures depended on his skills. Just as everyone was speechless, they suddenly felt the originally warm space become cold. A cold current appeared out of nowhere. Moreover, Li Lingtian did not have this cold current around him. It was as if the cold current came from the heavens and earth, just like the natural winter chill. Kiki, Kiki. Kiki, Kiki. The super experts were still fine, but the other armies began to tremble, their teeth chattering non-stop. The temperature in the sky was cold, as if it was deep in an icy abyss. Li Lingtian waved his hands in the air, his entire person looking extremely dashing. With a casual wave of his hand, snowflakes danced in the sky, and the entire world began to snow heavily. Within 1,000 miles, all the worlds were covered in snowflakes. However, within the walls of southern mountain city, it was as warm as spring. There was no feeling at all. Not good. He's going to use the icebound 10,000-mile almighty technique. A super powerhouse from the army of the 6 states shouted loudly. Then, all the martial emperor powerhouses with fire-type martial souls and all the fire-type martial artists unleashed their fire-type attacks. They wanted to use fire attacks to block the ice. In an instant, the power of flames appeared in the millions of troops. Between heaven and earth, there was an endless world of flames below. Countless armies used their cultivation techniques to resist the flames. However, there was indeed an endless world of ice in the sky. Snowflakes were flying everywhere. This world became a world of ice and fire. Li Lingtian was like the god of ice and snow. He waved his hands at a steady pace. With each wave, the snowflakes in the sky grew stronger and the temperature became colder. Raging flames burning the heavens. The power of the great flames. Sky-burning sword. Explosive fist. Destructive divine flame. Among the 6 nations' army, countless powerhouses unleashed their fire element attacks in an attempt to destroy Li Lingtian's 1,000 miles of ice. They understood that Li Lingtian's current cultivation base could not allow him to unleash the 10,000 miles of ice instantly. He could only slowly condense it, and if he could break it, he would be able to break the 10,000 miles of ice. If they couldn't, the 6 armies would suffer a heaven-defying destruction. Even if they couldn't truly freeze 10,000 kilometers, as long as they did so, hundreds of thousands of soldiers would be wiped out. The will of the Tao of Water. Naturally, Li Lingtian understood his opponent's intentions. However, he knew that such a powerful move could not be unleashed in an instant in a battle against a powerhouse. When the will of the great path of water was displayed, the moisture between heaven and earth instantly became heavier, and the frost became even more terrifying when it came into contact with water. Moreover, the will of the way of water was the nemesis of fire-type martial souls. Firstly, it could block fire-type attacks from below. Secondly, it could increase his own attack. Thirdly, the will of the way of water was the catalyst for freezing 10,000 miles. Huff, huff, huff. Huff, huff, huff. In the air, the destructive power of the flames and the cold air collided. Li Lingtian hovered in the air with ease as he condescendingly displayed his water Tao intent. 1,000 miles of ice. Although it seemed slow, it was actually very fast. Li Lingtian shouted coldly as he swung his hands in the air. Suddenly, the snowflakes turned into a curtain of snow, blocking the vision of countless experts. Moreover, the will of the great path of water between heaven and earth began to change strangely. Hush! All the powerhouses gasped as the raging flames between heaven and earth disappeared. A purple flame appeared on Li Lingtian's finger. The purple flames disappeared into the space and merged with the icy cold air. In an instant, Icebound 10,000 Mile was used. Icebound 10,000 Mile was an exaggeration, but this time, the ice was nearly 100 miles in size. A world of glaciers appeared before the eyes of all the powerhouses and armies. The armies of the 6 dynasties had nearly 1,000,000 soldiers frozen inside. Even the martial emperor powerhouses were trapped inside. The formation of the world of glaciers was a magical and beautiful world. The army in the glaciers had endless expressions on their faces, but these expressions were eternal. The snowflakes stopped. Glaciers formed. The expert was stunned. The space was quiet. Everything quieted down. The armies and experts on the city walls, as well as the armies and experts of the 6 dynasties, all stared at the glacier on the ground in shock, as if they had seen a ghost. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face. The smile on his lips was extremely cruel as his body flashed and he quickly returned to the top of the city wall. By the time Li Lingtian returned to the city wall, the entire army was still in a daze. Only a few powerhouses were jolted awake. When they saw Li Lingtian, they were even more respectful and worshipped. Crash! At that moment, the martial emperor powerhouse in the glacier shattered the glacier. Although he was injured, the glacier could not imprison a martial emperor powerhouse forever because Li Lingtian's cultivation was still too low. However, the moment the martial emperor powerhouse broke free, the glacier that was 100 miles wide shattered into pieces. With the disappearance of the glacier, the army of over 1,000,000 soldiers also disappeared, turning into corpses. At this moment, all the powerhouses and the army were shocked. How ruthless was this move? If a martial emperor powerhouse escaped, it meant that the army would be destroyed. If a martial emperor powerhouse did not escape, the army would be imprisoned forever. The 1,000,000-strong army was instantly killed in one move. One move killed a 1,000,000-strong army, killing people invisibly. Instantly, the 6 states' armies suffered another devastating blow. Roar! 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 Young Master is unparalleled and has swept the world. Young Master D is unrivaled and has swept the world. Young Master is unparalleled and has swept the world. Young Master D is unrivaled and has swept the world. Immediately, the Divine Wind Legion and Divine Dragon Legion soldiers cheered loudly. They looked at Li Lingtian's domineering bearing with reverence. The loud voices shook the sky, and the experts and army on the city wall cheered. For a moment, the entire southern mountain great city was in an uproar. A shocking aura soared into the sky. The aura of the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion had already reached its limit. All the soldiers were boiling with excitement. Li Lingtian smiled in satisfaction as he looked at the 2 legions and the imposing manner of the southern peak city's army. The morale of the armies of the 6 dynasties was low, and they had no will to fight. The disappearance of battle intent was a fatal existence for an army. This was the moment to destroy the army of the 6 dynasties. Where is the Divine Wind Legion? Li Lingtian shouted loudly. His face was filled with fighting spirit and his aura shook the space. Yes. Yes. Clean up the world for young master. The Divine Wind Troop answered loudly. Although they were thousands of miles away, the Divine Wind Troop was made up of martial emperors and was extremely powerful. Where is the Divine Dragon Legion? Li Lingtian's eyes were cold but his blood was boiling. Yes. Yes. I will sweep the Black Continent and unify the world for the young master. The army of the Divine Dragon Army was made up of martial honored realm experts. They were terrifyingly strong and invincible. Kill them. Li Lingtian's voice was like a dragon's roar. The dragon's roar was so loud that the sky changed color. One word, kill. It was enough to represent everything. It represented his dominance and strength. It represented that the Xian continent would tremble because of him. It represented that the world would groan under his feet. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. The 2 legions formed a conical formation and swept toward the 6 states. The army was filled with formations. Wherever they passed, they would be invincible. Kill them. The experts and armies of the 6 states were completely stunned. This was because they realized that Li Lingtian's 2 legions were not here to attack the 6 nations but to sweep across the world. The extent of their ambition was shocking. Now, they didn't know whether to attack the city wall or retreat. In front of them was the city wall, and behind them was the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion. Although the 2 legions didn't have many people, they were invincible and swept through the army. The same shouts were on a completely different level compared to the Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion. For a moment, the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army were killing their way through the army of millions. Wherever they went, they would carve out bloody paths. Even if a martial emperor tried to stop them, they would not be able to withstand it. With thousands of martial monarchs and martial supremacies casting the power of the array formation, even a martial emperor could only avoid it. Where is the Qing Xian Kingdom's army? Li Lingtian took a glance at the army in the city. All of them were excited and eager to fight when they saw the imposing manner and strength of the Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions. However, without Li Lingtian's instructions, they could only watch. They finally felt the passion of a great war and the meaning of a great war to men. This was a real man's battlefield, a battlefield that a real man should have. Yes. Yes. To sweep the world for young Master D. The chi of the Qing Xian Kingdom's army also rose to the peak because they understood that their battle was about to begin. Although they were not the Divine Wind or the Divine Dragon Legion, they would not lose their momentum. Kill them. Li Lingtian waved his hand with a cold expression. This was his first real battle, and he had to be perfect. There could not be any problems and he had to unleash his momentum. Immediately, the city gates opened, and the restrictions were activated. Millions of soldiers rushed out like a tide. Boom! The armies of the 2 sides collided fiercely. The tens of millions of soldiers collided like 2 tides, and a shocking killing intent soared into the sky. At this moment, the world changed color. All the experts had completely forgotten about life and death, completely forgotten about longevity, and were completely immersed in this life and death battle. P.S. I would like to recommend The 7-Realm War God, a work of a great god. It's worth a look. Chapter 629, Battle of Martial Saints. 1. Imperial Uncle, the icebound 10,000 mile that you cast is so powerful. Qingqing needs to cultivate it too. Xianyuan Qingqing came to Li Lingtian's side and spoke in a sweet voice as she watched the battle between millions of troops. Although Qing was still young, she had witnessed Li Lingtian's strength and felt a sense of security. Qingqing, if you want to cultivate, you have to work hard. Li Lingtian bent down and picked up Qing. The coldness on his face was gone and replaced by a smile. There was no longer any trace of the murderous aura from the battle. The killing intent was melted by Xianyuan Qingqing's words. Seeing this change, all the experts were extremely curious. A super expert who could kill millions of soldiers with a wave of his hand actually had such a gentle side to him. Xianyuan Pavilion was reluctant to part with Xianyuan Qingqing and Li Lingtian when he saw how intimate they were. However, he was happy for Qingqing that she had a good elder to protect her. Qingqing will work hard to cultivate and not embarrass Imperial Uncle. Xianyuan Qingqing nodded with a serious expression. Following that, Li Lingtian and the rest stood on the city wall and watched the battle below. It was a battle between millions of soldiers. The Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions were killing their way through, destroying everything in their path. Qing Xian's army and the armies of the 6 states were engaged in a battle. Although Qing Xian's strength was not as strong as the combined forces of the other 6 states, the morale of the entire army was boosted by Li Lingtian. Swoosh! At that moment, a destructive beam of light blasted toward Li Lingtian. The power of the pillar of light was shocking. In front of this pillar of light, space constantly trembled and shattered. Moreover, the pillar of light carried a supreme destructive pressure. Martial Saint! All the super experts on the city wall were shocked when they saw the pillar of light and the pressure. At the same time, he could tell the origin of this pillar of light. Only those super experts could use it because this attack carried the pressure of a martial saint expert. Moreover, it was a super powerful martial saint. Although the attack was violent and powerful, and the distance was great, the powerhouse who launched the attack had a sinister intention to kill Li Lingtian in one blow. Even if Li Lingtian could dodge this attack, his family members could not. Even a martial saint powerhouse from the Qing Xian nation could not withstand the beam of light. Hence, this attack would definitely kill Li Lingtian's family and even Li Lingtian. You're courting death. Just as all the experts were in shock, Shenyuan Gucheng and the others were preparing to block the attack. A cold voice sounded in the air. At the same time, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in the air. The man was more than 2 meters tall and held a huge hammer in his hand. The hammer carried a destructive aura. Peak of the third sky of the martial saint realm. On the city wall, in the army of the 6 dynasties, countless super experts saw the cultivation base of this middle-aged man. They were shocked at the same time. The third sky of the martial saint realm was an invincible existence. Even a first sky martial saint could be killed. The expert who appeared in the sky was the heavenly monster king. They had been near southern mountain city. As long as a martial saint appeared, they would come out to stop him. Heaven Demon King looked at the destructive pillar of light with disdain. He used all his demonic powers and the heaven shocking hammer in his hand. A shocking attack struck the pillar of light. Boom! With a shocking explosion, the earth trembled and collapsed. The space also trembled. Countless armies were destroyed in the space tremors and drowned by the collapse of the earth. The pillar of light disappeared. Heavenly Demon Monarch's body swayed as the two attacks cancelled each other out. That bastard, come out. I promise I won't beat him to death. Sky Demon Monarch floated in the air and walked towards the 6 states' armies. He was searching for something. They were completely disregarding the experts of the 6 armies. This was a provocation and an insult. Damn it, you're courting death. Under Heaven Demon King's provocation, a third firmament martial saint flew out from the 6 dynasties' army. He flew into the sky and faced Heaven Demon King from afar. He was the one who unleashed the attack earlier. Seeing how terrifying Li Lingtian was, he felt threatened and took the risk to attack Li Lingtian. However, after taking the risk, he was blocked by the Heaven Demon Monarch. He was naturally unhappy. Lai Xia of the South School was a third sky martial saint. He was one of the 4 third sky martial saints in the army of the 6 states. His cultivation level was extremely high. He was extremely shocked when he saw the peak third firmament martial saint. So it's you hiding behind the scenes. When the Sky Demon King saw Lai Xia, the corners of his mouth curled up. He revealed a disdainful expression as he looked down on Lai Hua's actions. He hid in the dark and attacked. Furthermore, he was filled with killing intent. He would eliminate anyone who dared to ambush Li Lingtian. This was his duty as a guard. Countless troops and experts below looked at the 2/3 sky martial saints in the sky. They felt immense pressure, but they understood that the 2 martial saints would not fight. This was because martial saints could not participate in the war. Now that it was a war, even if they appeared, they could only put pressure on the army. Boom! Boom! The earth trembled and the space trembled. The army never stopped charging. The experts of both sides looked up at the sky. Only they knew if they dared to fight. Do you want to fight here? Lai Xia looked at Heaven Demon King with an ignorant expression. He didn't believe that Heaven Demon King would dare to fight here. Even if there was a war, Qing Xian did not have the strength to do so. If there was really a war between the martial saints, they would want the Qing Xian kingdom to start a war. If that was the case, the Qing Xian kingdom would lose. They could completely use the martial saints to wipe out the Qing Xian kingdom. Idiot! A cruel smile appeared on the corner of the heavenly monster king's mouth. The demonic power in his body burst out and the heaven-shocking hammer in his hand smashed fiercely at his opponent. His cultivation base at the peak of the third sky of the Martial Saint realm had a huge advantage. In addition to taking the lead, they had an even greater advantage. His character was to take the initiative to attack, fiercely attacking. The Divine Wind Legion below was fighting endlessly, and it was completely led by a few super generals. He could ignore it, and now was the perfect time to kill. Boom! With a shocking explosion, Lai Xie's body was thrown into the air. He had never expected that heavenly monster King Cheng would attack and disregard the ironclad rules of the divine martial continent. You dare to violate the iron law? Lai Xie watched as the destructive attacks came at him. He was terrified and lost the upper hand. He was no match for the heavenly demon king. Iron law. My young master is the iron law. Heaven Demon King looked at Lai Xie as if he was an idiot. The evil smile on his face grew wider as he continuously struck out with the heaven-startling hammer. Every strike was earth-shattering. Swoosh! At this moment, another martial saint flew up and arrived beside Lai Xie. The two of them formed a formation and planned to join forces to deal with the heavenly demon king. Lai Xie's mouth was stained with blood, and his face was pale. Since we are going to fight, let's have a great destruction. In the air, Xianyuan Qingfeng's figure flashed and arrived beside the heavenly demon king. Even if the Qing Xian kingdom was not a match for the six kingdoms, they could not lose to the other party in terms of aura. For a moment, the four martial saints in the air were facing each other. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. After Xianyuan Qingfeng's appearance, a martial saint appeared in the army of the six states. After the martial saint experts appeared in the armies of the six states, another one appeared in the Qing Xian kingdom. After exchanging blows, 14 martial saint experts appeared in the sky. The martial saints of Qing Xian had all come out, but there were still martial saints in the army of the six states. Humph! Since your Qing Xian kingdom dares to violate the iron law, I shall clean up the iron law of the divine martial continent. Tian Luo Kingdom's Qing Tianfeng also came out at this time. He was a third heaven martial saint and was also the main character of this battle. Seeing the martial saint experts from Qing Xian was already the limit of Qing Xian. If he came out now, the scale of the martial saint experts would shift to the six states. Kill them. The army below looked at the martial saint powerhouse in the sky in shock. The experts of the six dynasties took this opportunity to raise their morale. Immediately, the battlefield was filled with shouts and killing sounds. This world is a world where the strong are respected. There are no iron laws in this world. Our young master is the iron law. Since we want to clean you up, we will clean you up. The commander of the Divine Dragon Legion, Martial Saint Yunhao, flew up and floated in the air. He walked towards Qing Tianfeng step by step. He was not afraid of a third heaven martial saint against a third heaven upper martial saint. Moreover, Li Lingtian had given him a lot of pointers and he had benefited greatly from it. He was not afraid even when facing a peak third heaven martial saint. Kill them. Kill them. The army of the Qing Mystic Kingdom, the Divine Wind Legion, and the Divine Dragon Legion also cheered loudly at this moment. Their battle cries shook the sky, and their auras were like rainbows as they continuously destroyed their opponents. The array formation was capable of taking on hundreds of enemies by itself. Every attack would cause hundreds of thousands of soldiers to vanish into thin air. This battle was a complete destruction. Even in the divine martial continent, it was rare to see such a destructive battle. Good, very good. When Qing Tianfeng saw that Qing Xian had a third sky martial saint, the advantage he thought he had disappeared. The expression on his face changed a few times, but he quickly calmed down. This was because there were countless experts in the army, and there were even martial saints. Swoosh! Swoosh! Martial saints from the Qing Luo nation, the Dongming nation, the Blackwater nation, the Yanlai nation, the Tian Luo nation, and the Nanshao nation also appeared. Every time a martial saint powerhouse appeared, the commotion below would increase greatly. The morale of the army below was completely boosted by the power of the powerhouses in the air. This was because a martial saint could decide the outcome of a battle. Seeing the number of martial saints in the sky increase, countless super experts were extremely shocked. The Qing Xian Kingdom's army, Xianyuan Beiling and the others were shocked. They did not expect Li Lingtian to have so many martial saint powerhouses under him. The few martial saints from Qing Xian had left. The rest of the martial saints who were fighting against the Six Nations' armies were Li Lingtian's guards. There were already 26 martial saints in the air. This was also the limit of both sides' strength. For a moment, there was a slight difference between the forces in the sky. Both sides had the same number of martial saints, but the six states had 3/3 sky martial saints while the Qing Xian Kingdom only had 2. Chapter 630, Battle of the Martial Saints, 1, Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! The battle cries shook the sky. The strength in the air was already obvious. As long as the martial saints of the six states suppressed the martial saints of the Qing Xian Kingdom, the morale of the Qing Xian Kingdom would fall and the Qing Xian Kingdom would be wiped out. Unless a martial saint powerhouse violated the Iron Law, otherwise, a martial saint powerhouse would not make a move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, a few more figures flew out from the sky and hovered steadily beside Martial Saint Yunhao and the others. A martial saint, 6 martial saints. With this, Qing Xian had a total of 19 martial saints. Even if they had one less third heaven expert than the 6 states, they had 6 more martial saints. The battle between martial saints had turned into a huge battle between the forces in the sky. Even though they did not fight, the atmosphere was extremely strange. The space shook. More than 30 martial saints gathered together. Even if there was no war, it brought endless pressure to all the experts and the army. Hush! The super powerhouses of the Six Nations armies and the top powerhouses on the city walls were shocked to see so many martial saints under Li Lingtian's command. They could not help but look at Li Lingtian, only to see him carrying Qing Qing, completely unconcerned about the battle. Xianyuan Beiling and the others were shocked beyond words. He never expected Li Lingtian to have so many martial saints. It was no wonder that the martial emperor and martial saint in the conquered commanderies had disappeared. They had been rounded up long ago. Seems like Qing Xian has been waiting for this day for a long time. Qing Lanyan looked into the sky and his figure disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in the sky. He arrived in front of Qing Tianfeng. All of a sudden, there were 4/3 sky martial saints in the army of the 6 states. It was not difficult for 4/3 sky martial saints to deal with 19 martial saints. This change had never occurred to the army of Qing Xian. The balance had shifted to the side of the 6 dynasties. Not bad. Martial Saint Ming Luo walked in the air with a smile on her face. Great battles depended on strength and strategy. This step-by-step suppression of the enemy's morale was like a never-ending supply of strength, dealing a huge blow to the hearts of the 6 dynasties. 3/3 sky martial saints and the advantage in numbers had once again leveled their strength. So what? Qing Tianfeng laughed loudly when he saw that neither side had an advantage over the martial saint. This was because there were more martial emperors and revered martial artists in the army of the 6 states. Even if they were to face the Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions, they were confident that they could wipe out the Qing Xian Kingdom. Indeed, nothing can be done, because all of you have to stay. Li Lingtian's voice rang out. Although it was a whisper in the midst of the battle, it was heard by all the powerhouses and the army. Countless powerhouses and the army looked at Li Lingtian on the city wall with a puzzled expression. However, what happened next caused the expressions of the armies of the 6 states to change. Roar! With a loud roar, a strange fluctuation appeared in the air, and a huge demonic beast appeared in the air. The demonic beast then descended from the sky and bombarded the army of the 6 dynasties. A huge rank 7 demonic beast was only equivalent to a martial supreme. However, such a demonic beast had powerful attacks and astonishing defenses. It was not a threat to a martial supreme, but it was a destructive existence to an army below a marshal supreme. After this demonic beast appeared, things were not over. Roar! Roar! Another roar sounded out, but this time, it stunned the entire battlefield. All the eyes of the army were drawn over. A golden light appeared in the sky, and a 2-meter-long demon beast appeared. The demon beast was shining with golden light, as dazzling as a mountain of gold. The terrifying demonic power and might were enough to suppress all the armies. 8th rank demonic beast. 8th rank demonic beast. Rank 8 flaming gold demon dragon. Countless super experts could tell the level of the demonic beast, but only a small number of experts could recognize the origin of the demonic beast. The 100-meter-long flaming gold demonic dragon was covered in terrifying metal elemental energy. It was like a destructive machine with shocking defense and invincible attacks. The flaming gold demonic dragon was a rank 8 existence. With the power of a martial saint, even an ordinary 1st or 2nd heaven martial saint would not be a match for this rank 8 flaming gold demonic dragon. Moreover, the flaming gold demonic dragon was a killing weapon when it entered the army. No one could stop it. This was equivalent to a martial saint entering the army. Moreover, even if this flaming gold demonic dragon entered the battle, it would not violate the Iron Law. At this moment, all the troops were dumbfounded. The martial saint expert was being held back by the other party. There was the divine wind and the divine dragon army below. Now, there was a flaming gold demon dragon. If this continued, the millions of troops would be destroyed in no time. Roar! Roar! Boom! Boom! The flaming gold demonic dragon charged into the army and continued to kill. Wherever it passed, the destructive metal elemental attacks swept through like a tornado, and the army within a mile was destroyed. Countless armies disappeared in an instant. The flaming gold demonic dragon was like a mountain of gold that could be seen from far away. Wherever the flaming gold demonic dragon was, the army would be destroyed. Li Lingtian, you're despicable. Qing Lanyun watched as the army was destroyed by the flaming gold demonic dragon. More than 10,000 soldiers were killed. If this continued, millions of soldiers would die in less than an hour. After saying that, his body flashed and he shot towards the flaming gold demonic dragon below. Is it that easy to leave? When you scheme against others, you have to pay the price of being schemed against. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's figure flashed and arrived in front of Qing Lanyun. He had been staring at Qing Lanyun and naturally wouldn't let him leave. As long as he held Qing Lanyun back, he would be able to end this battle. Boom! As soon as the two of them met, a shocking attack erupted. Boom! Boom! A great battle erupted. More than 30 martial saints rushed up to the 9th heaven. The space shook and countless sharp winds raged in the space. The battle between the martial saint experts in the sky and the army on the ground shook the world as if the sky was about to shatter. Rumble! Rumble! Ah! 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 Explosions rang out and screams rang out. The world had become hell on earth. Li Lingtian and the others watched the battle with calm expressions. This was a great war, and a great war was one where countless resources and lives were sacrificed. A destructive aura resounded through the world. The flaming gold demonic dragon kept swinging its tail, and its lantern-sized eyes emitted a bloodthirsty light. Pfft! A martial saint expert fell from the sky. A first sky martial saint from Qing Xian country was killed. He had lost his life in the sky. Ge, give me the mysterious heavenly divine bow. As Li Lingtian watched the battle in the sky, a faint smile appeared on his face. The smile on his lips was icy cold. The threat of a third sky martial saint was too great. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the other two did not have any advantage against 4 third sky martial saints. If this continued, no matter how many martial saints Qing Xian had, they would still be killed. He had to eliminate a third sky martial saint at a certain time. The mysterious heavenly divine bow was undoubtedly the most powerful attack. The person it locked onto would only die. Aunt, carry me. I want to see Imperial Uncle beat up those bad guys. Although Xianyuan Qingqing was not put down by Li Lingtian, she understood that Li Lingtian had something to do. Hence, she obediently left Li Lingtian's embrace and came to Xianyuan Yingying. Big brother, this is the mysterious heavenly divine bow for you. Ge handed the mystic heavenly bow to Li Lingtian before handing over 2 mystic heavenly arrows. Originally, the mysterious heavenly divine bow was the most precious treasure of the elf clan and was only suitable for the elf princess. However, her cultivation was too low and could not compare to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was a martial emperor powerhouse and he knew the elf clan's mysterious heavenly bow. Although he could not wield it as easily and naturally as Ge, his power was definitely not something that Ge's current cultivation base could compare to. After receiving the mystic heavenly divine bow and mystic heavenly arrow, Li Lingtian's eyes were slightly averted. He did not look anywhere but he sent out a divine consciousness. He circulated all the true essence in his body, and the profound heavenly divine bow in his hand slowly circulated. The profound heavenly arrow was placed on the profound heavenly divine bow, and an aura that could destroy the world instantly erupted. At this moment, Martial Saint Ming Luo, Martial Saint Yun Hao, and Heavenly Demon King unleashed their destructive attacks. It was a completely desperate fighting style, not caring about the loss of true essence. This way, the 3 opponents could only resist. Heaven Shocking Hammer Strike, Die. Heavenly Destruction Realm. 3 destruction stances. The 3 of them unleashed their most powerful moves at the same time, and a destructive attack directly bombarded the 3 opponents. Instantly, the world trembled and space shattered. At that moment, Li Lingtian raised his hand. He stood up, took a step forward, bent his back, and pulled his bow. The 2 destructive profound heavenly arrows disappeared. In the sky, 2 spiritual energy channels appeared. The 2 profound heavenly arrows in the spiritual energy tore through time and space and shot directly at Qing Lanyun and Qing Tianfeng. Their speed was extremely fast, completely surpassing the vision of the experts. Ah! The 2 profound heavenly arrows tore through time and space, ignoring the distance between them and bombarding Qing Lanyun and Qing Tianfeng. The divine weapon was the death scythe of a martial saint powerhouse, not to mention Li Lingtian's mysterious heavenly divine bow and mysterious heavenly arrow. They were so powerful that the 2/3 firmament martial saints' defenses were destroyed in an instant. In the face of 2 powerful opponents of the same level, the profound heavenly arrow became a scythe of death. The 2 of them were thrown out and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, a miserable cry came from Lai Xie's sky. Lai Xie's eyes were ashen and he had a look of fear. He looked at Li Lingtian in confusion as a trace of blood appeared on his glabella. Heaven Demon Monarch's figure flashed as he struck Lai Xie with his hammer. All the experts were puzzled. The mysterious heavenly divine bow and the mysterious heavenly arrow had not killed the opponent, but Lai Xie had. Very soon, all the experts understood that the mysterious heavenly divine bow and the mysterious heavenly arrow were just a trigger, a feint. Lai Xie was the one they wanted to kill, but no one knew how he had died. I recommend the new book, Ancient Sage Myriad Ancient King. I welcome everyone to read and save it. I also want to vote for it. The new book needs everyone's support. Only with everyone's support can the new book go further. Chapter 631, Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Time and space are not constant. Not bad, I've already gained more control. Li Lingtian reached out and looked at the exquisite flying knife in his hand. A faint smile appeared on his face. He did not take the death of a 3rd firmament martial saint to heart at all. At that moment, many of the top powerhouses on the city wall finally got a clear look and understood how the 3rd firmament martial saint had fallen. He was killed by Li Lingtian's concealed weapon. A martial saint powerhouse was still a super existence. It was indeed a little aggrieved that he was actually killed by a martial emperor powerhouse's hidden weapon. The death of the 2 martial saints in the air immediately made the battle even more intense. One of them was a third heaven martial saint from the Six Nations army, while the other was a first heaven martial saint from the Qing Xian kingdom. Martial saints basically died of old age. Those who weren't killed could escape even if they couldn't win. Even if a level 3 expert fought against a level 1 expert, as long as they weren't too unlucky, they could still escape. Now, 2 martial saints had fallen, and there was also a third sky martial saint. What kind of concept was this? Qing Lanyun and Qing Tianfeng were injured. Martial Saint Ming Luo, Heavenly Monster King, and Martial Saint Yunhao quickly chased after them. It turned out that there was one more third heaven martial saint in the Six Nations army and 6 less ordinary martial saints. However, both sides had one less martial saint now, and the Six Nations army had lost a third heaven martial saint. With such a ratio, the Six Nations army had suffered heavy losses. Kill them! Kill them! The disparity in strength was something that even ordinary martial artists could see. The current strength of the Qing Mystic Kingdom was definitely stronger than the armies of the 6 dynasties. The morale of the Qing Mystic Kingdom's army had soared, and the Divine Wind and Divine Dragon legions were able to move freely in the army. The flaming gold demonic dragon was like a demonic creature that could devour everything. It destroyed countless armies, and thousands of them vanished into thin air. Rumble! Rumble! The battle did not stop at all. Instead, it became more and more intense. Li Lingtian and the others stood on top of the city wall and watched the battle unfold with a calm expression. Such a battle could not be ended in a short period of time, even if the Divine Wind and the Divine Dragon Legion were inside. After all, the enemy army was too large. The only way now was to destroy the Martial Saint powerhouse in the air. However, he usually didn't want to fight now. He would let his subordinates fight. As an expert, an ultimate expert, an expert who controlled the world, he wouldn't do everything himself. Young master, do you think we can kill all the martial saints in the sky? Qing Ling looked at the battle in the sky. Right now, Qing Xian had the upper hand. However, the battle between martial saints could not be decided in a short period of time. Even if Qing Xian had the upper hand, it was impossible to end the battle. It's very difficult. After all, even if a martial saint expert can't defeat him, he can still escape. Unless it's 2 against 1. Besides, even if I go up, I can only kill a few of them, so it will depend on their luck. I don't want to do it myself, because things in this world change rapidly. Li Lingtian turned to look at Qing Ling beside him and gently said that he must protect his wife. He wouldn't be as impulsive as before and rush forward to fight. Moreover, many experts were hidden. If he exposed his strength first, others would see through him. Therefore, he wanted to become a trump card at all times. If this continues, the battle will definitely be a tragic victory. Perhaps there will be some unforeseen circumstances. Tang Qingyue looked at Li Lingtian as she spoke seriously. She understood that this war was the most important one for Qing Xian, and it was also Li Lingtian's first real battle. It was very important for the future. If anything were to happen in this war, it would have a negative impact on future wars. Great battles have always been like this. It's very difficult to defeat many with fewer people. This time, I want to win, but I want them to gain some experience. There will be many battles in the future. Victory and defeat are normal. As long as the final victory is in my hands, it will be fine. Li Lingtian gently stroked Tang Qingyue's hair with a gentle smile on his face. To him, Tang Qingyue had always been a goddess. Now that she was his wife, she naturally doted on him. Then let them be. Maybe Ming Luo and the others will change something. Huang Fuyuyan felt extremely relaxed when she heard Li Lingtian's words. If Li Lingtian was happy, they would be happy. If Li Lingtian was unhappy, they would not be able to relax. Following that, Li Lingtian and the others watched the battle without paying much attention to it. The armies of the 6 states collapsed, and martial saints fell one after another. The Qing Mystic Kingdom's army was imposing. The Divine Wind Legion and the Divine Dragon Legion were engaged in a great battle. The flaming gold demonic dragon was like a devouring machine, strangling the Six Kingdoms' army. Rumble. Boom. Boom. In the air, martial saint powerhouses clashed. There was no technique at all because it was a few against one. It was completely dependent on true strength. The 3/3 Sky Martial Saints were restrained by Martial Saint Ming Luo and the other two. As for the other martial saints, Qing Xian had a few more than the army of the Six Dynasties. Basically, 3 or 4 of them would join forces to kill one, and then join forces to kill the other. This kind of fighting style was of fatal existence for the Six Nations army. If it was a one-on-one fight, the martial saints would not die at all. However, if 4 or 5 of them worked together to kill one, the number of martial saints in the Six Nations army would decrease, and the rate of their deaths would increase. As time passed, the battle on the ground became more and more intense. The armies of both sides were already in a frenzy. The true essence of countless experts and armies had been exhausted. They were completely relying on their physical strength to fight. Even martial emperors could only fight with martial grandmasters and martial kings without true essence. Li. Ling. Heavens! At this moment, an ethereal voice rang out from the void. The entire battlefield turned ice-cold. It was as if all the troops and experts had entered an icy abyss, and they could not help but shiver. Pfft! Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically as he spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was forced back a few steps before he stopped. The terrifying sound wave attack, a simple sentence, carried supreme dignity and attack. There was nowhere to dodge or block. Even a peerless powerhouse like Li Lingtian was injured by the sound. Young master! Young master! Husband! Seeing Li Lingtian's sudden change, the people on the city wall were appalled. Tang Qingyue and the others quickly supported Li Lingtian with concern on their faces. The powerhouses were terrified. Even Li Lingtian was injured by a single sound. How powerful was that? Moreover, Qing Xian's victory was certain at this moment. It was unacceptable for such a thing to happen. It's okay. You guys be careful. Li Lingtian circulated his true essence, but he was only shaken mentally. When he had discovered the danger earlier, he had also circulated his cultivation technique and blocked most of the sound wave attack. Otherwise, even a martial emperor powerhouse like him would have died in front of this sound wave. After saying that, he looked into the depths of the void and saw a grid appear in the sky. It was a purple grid, and the grid expanded slightly. The void within a radius of 100 miles was filled with an endless grid. In the grid, a faint shadow gradually formed. Soon, the shadow turned into a real body, an old man in his 50s. The old man's body emitted a terrifying aura, and the entire space trembled in front of his pressure. Furthermore, there were purple halos flashing around the old man, making him seem mysterious and powerful. Li Lingtian and the other powerhouses exclaimed in surprise when they saw the old man. Fifth Sky of the Martial Saint Realm. Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Wind Cloud Martial Saint. For a moment, all the experts were shocked. Li Lingtian's expression changed drastically when he saw the old man's cultivation base. The old man's cultivation base had actually reached the fifth heaven of the Martial Saint Realm. The fifth heaven of the Martial Saint Realm was completely different from the fourth and third heaven of the Martial Saint Realm. A fourth heaven Martial Saint in front of a fifth heaven Martial Saint was like a martial king meeting a martial grandmaster or even a martial emperor. The two were on completely different levels. All the martial saints and super experts were shocked when they saw this old man because this martial saint expert was one of the top 10 martial saints in the Moonsong Kingdom. His cultivation was extremely terrifying. The Moonsong Kingdom controlled 36 countries, but Qing Xian was only one of them. They did not expect Martial Saint Fengyun to appear here. They looked at him in confusion. Although Li Lingtian did not know much about other places, he had gained some understanding of Qing Xian, some other countries, and some other kingdoms after coming to Xianzhou. There were 3 empires, 36 kingdoms, 3,000 countries, and 100,000 commanderies in Xianzhou. Qing Xian was only a kingdom under the Moonsong Kingdom, and it was already so powerful. Moreover, there were kingdoms and empires. Their power was unimaginable. Seeing that the army and countless experts were trembling under his name, the Wind Cloud Martial Saint was satisfied. His cold gaze turned to Li Lingtian as the satisfaction on his face turned into anger. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint was skilled in Wind Cloud mutated attribute attacks. What was even more terrifying was that the Wind Cloud Martial Saint also controlled terrifying sound wave attacks. With these two earth-shattering destructive trump cards, he had become one of the top 10 martial saints in the Moonsong Kingdom. However, a martial emperor did not die under his sonic attack. Instead, he was only slightly injured. To the 10 great martial saints, this was definitely an insult. In the sky, all the martial saints stopped, and the martial saints of the 6 armies looked excited. This was because the Wind Cloud Martial Saint's attack on Li Lingtian was beneficial to them. However, the martial saint experts of the Qing Xian country had their expressions changed. A 5th sky martial saint had come and swept away all the experts. To them, it was a devastating blow. Li Lingtian, you violated the iron law of the divine martial continent. You deserve to be punished. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint hovered high in the air as he glared coldly at Li Lingtian. His voice traveled at a moderate pace and spread throughout the entire battlefield. For a moment, the armies on both sides were both happy and worried. His imposing aura was like a judge scrutinizing Li Lingtian. Continuous outbreak. Where are the monthly votes, recommendation votes, and book reviews? Chapter 632, Heaven-Defying Duel, 1, Iron Law. The Iron Law is nothing in front of me. Li Lingtian looked at the Wind Cloud Martial Saint in the air indifferently with a cold expression on his face. In the end, he burst out laughing maniacally. He looked extremely arrogant. In this world, the strong were respected. There was no Iron Law. Iron Law only applied to low-level martial artists. To the strong, it was completely ignored. If Qing Xian didn't have so many martial saints, if he wasn't here, Qing Xian would have been wiped out by the combined forces of the 6 states, and billions of people would have died. Now that Martial Saint Fengyun was using the Iron Law to suppress him, he was furious. Moreover, it was a sound wave attack. If his cultivation was slightly weaker, he would have died. How could there be an Iron Law? Since the Iron Law was useless against the other party, then he would directly fall out with them. Hush! Upon hearing Li Lingtian's words and seeing his arrogant and overbearing manner, all the powerhouses were shocked. A 4th Heaven Martial Emperor dared to oppose a 5th Heaven Martial Saint powerhouse. Moonsong Kingdom's 10 great martial saints were no ordinary trash. Even if all the martial saints present joined forces, he could still wipe them all out. Now, Li Lingtian was resisting the Wind Cloud Martial Saint. Was he crazy? Good. As Li Lingtian spoke, the expression on the Wind Cloud Martial Saint's face slowly changed. His aura surged and the entire space shook. How could he survive in Moonsong Kingdom after being humiliated by a trash martial emperor in front of the entire world's army and experts? The destructive aura stirred the world crazily. Everything in the world trembled in front of this destructive aura. Heaven and earth trembled in front of this aura. The terrifying aura made all the experts unable to resist at all. They looked at the Wind Cloud Martial Saint in horror. This was the power of the 10 great martial saints. All the martial saints and super experts had the same thought. They were shocked and afraid. Boom! Boom! Hua! Hua! The air trembled and distorted. The world was filled with the aura of destruction and death. The expression on Fengyun Fengsheng's face became increasingly unsightly. Within 10,000 miles, the weather changed. All the troops prostrated themselves on the ground and did not dare to raise their heads. It was as if they had encountered a ruler. Even the martial emperor powerhouses were trembling. What's good about it? It's not good at all. Iron Law. What a ridiculous Iron Law. When the Six Dynasties attacked Qing Xian, you didn't mention the Iron Law. Now, you're talking about the Iron Law. Your words are like fart. Do you think I'm easy to bully? In a flash, Li Lingtian shot into the sky and hovered in the air 100 miles away from the wind cloud martial saint. He glared coldly at the wind cloud martial saint. The destructive force and wind wreaked havoc in the space. In the storm, his clothes kept rustling, and his entire person seemed to have entered a space-time tunnel. In everyone's eyes, Li Lingtian was like a small boat in the middle of a stormy sea that could vanish into thin air at any moment. You're courting death. Fengyun martial saint was even more shocked. A low-level martial emperor was not afraid of his aura and was even standing in his presence. This was a provocation. He was a martial monarch realm expert now, but he was already so abnormally powerful. If he did not get rid of him now, he would definitely be a huge problem in the future. A shocking might blasted toward Li Lingtian. The shocking might was as terrifying as the might of the heavens. Coupled with the destructive aura, even a ninth firmament martial emperor would perish from this attack. Heavenly Demon Region. Li Lingtian's eyes were filled with shock and fear. This was the first time he was so terrified. Even when he met the 7 demon venerables last time, he wasn't this terrified. His current cultivation and strength were many times stronger than before. However, meeting this Fengyun martial saint had brought him such fear. This was not a good thing. If he were to cower in front of the Fengyun martial saint this time, he would definitely be traumatized in the future. The fighting spirit in his entire body erupted. He circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation technique and the true dragon body barrier. The limitless feather coat on his body was also activated. The heavenly demon domain was unleashed. In terms of pressure and aura, he was never afraid of any expert. When the heavenly demon region was unleashed, he was the ruler within a 10-meter radius. Boom! A destructive tremor shook the space. An invisible aura and might collided, and the world was in chaos. The pressure was the pressure of a 5th heaven martial saint. In the divine martial continent, even a 4th heaven martial saint would be suppressed, let alone a martial supreme. In the hearts of all the powerhouses, Li Lingtian was definitely dead. The armies of the 6 kingdoms were overjoyed, while the Qing Xian army was terrified and regretful. In front of a 5th heaven martial saint powerhouse, even a 3rd heaven martial saint would be restricted in his movements. It was impossible for him to help Li Lingtian. Only Martial Saint Ming Luo and the other 2 knew how terrifying Li Lingtian was. Even if Li Lingtian could not defeat Martial Saint Fengyun, he would not have fallen. After the earth-shattering tremor, all the experts were stunned, completely blinded by the situation in the sky. Li Lingtian's body was thrown back 10 miles like a kite with a broken string. He spat out a mouthful of blood, but he was not crushed to death as expected. Martial Saint Fengyun's face was pale as well. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth as he retreated 100 meters. The 2 of them clashed with each other in terms of pressure and aura, and it was clear who was stronger. The Wind Cloud Martial Saint, one of the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom, was definitely not someone a martial emperor could compare to. However, all the powerhouses were shocked. A martial emperor powerhouse actually dared to use his pressure and aura to collide with the Wind Cloud martial saint. Moreover, he did not die and was only injured. Domineering, arrogant, powerful, and heaven-defying. These words were used on Li Lingtian. Only these words could describe the terror of this young powerhouse. With his cultivation at the 4th heaven of the martial emperor realm, he controlled the battle of the world's armies. He killed a 3rd heaven martial saint with his 4th heaven martial emperor cultivation base, and now he was fighting against the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom. Moreover, a martial saint expert could not destroy him even with his terrifying advantage. No one dared to imagine what kind of concept this was. Li Lingtian's mind was shaken. He steadied himself after he was thrown 10 miles away and used the force of the throw to offset the terrifying pressure of the Wind Cloud martial saint. Otherwise, he would not have been thrown so far away. Only Martial Saint Fengyun understood this. In the air, the force raged, and the wind tore through space. The aura between heaven and earth was chaotic. Yes, Moon Song Kingdom's 10 great martial saints. Not bad, you are indeed very powerful. Li Lingtian steadied himself and reached out to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth. However, his snow-white shirt was dripping with blood and he looked extremely miserable. However, his eyes flashed with a bright light, and his fighting spirit was awe-inspiring. The aura around his entire body continued to rise. He looked at the Fengyan martial saint and said with a smile. His voice was calm and without any color, but this sentence became a mockery in the hearts of all the experts. It meant that the 10 martial saints of Moon Song Kingdom were only so-so. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be able to kill a martial emperor with their pressure and aura. At the same time, this sentence was an insult to martial Saint Fengyan. His face turned red and he looked terrible. The 10 great martial saints had sneaked an attack on a martial emperor and used their pressure and aura to attack this martial emperor. They had failed twice. How could they still have the face to attack again? If word got out in the future, they would lose face. Alright, you're the strongest martial emperor I've ever met. The number one below the martial saint is none other than you. As long as you become my disciple, everything will disappear. In a few hundred years, you will become the strongest in the Mystic Moon Empire and look down on the world. Otherwise, you'll immediately vanish into thin air. The expression on martial Saint Fengyan's face slowly changed as his heart raced. The young man in front of him had shocking strength. He was confident that he could kill him, but it would take a lot of effort for him to do so. Moreover, he might even be seriously injured. When that happened, his cultivation would fall. It would not be good to hear that he injured a martial emperor powerhouse. Moreover, this young man was only in his 20s, but he had already become a martial emperor powerhouse. His strength was comparable to a martial saint. If he were to take this young man in as his disciple, he would be able to bring glory to himself when this young man became a super powerhouse. If this young man did not agree, he would have to destroy him. Otherwise, it would definitely be a future trouble. Whoosh! All the experts were stunned. What was going on? They had just engaged in a life-and-death battle, yet they were about to take Li Lingtian under their wing. It was obvious that the Windcloud martial saint cherished talents and was willing to sacrifice his pride to win Li Lingtian over. Was the world in chaos or crazy? All the super experts wanted to die. Comparing people was infuriating. Do you think it's possible? Li Lingtian's words were beyond everyone's imagination. Everyone was certain that Li Lingtian would agree to it. With a super martial saint backing him up, he could even avoid death. Where else could they find such a good deal? In Moonsong Kingdom, there were plenty of powerhouses who wanted to curry favor with the 10 great martial saints, but none of them had the chance to do so. However, Li Lingtian did not reject the offer. Moreover, Li Lingtian's domineering and arrogant attitude was evident in just one sentence. It was a kind of pride that would never admit defeat and never lower its head. It would not be inferior to anyone. Impossible. Then let it vanish like smoke. Try my great wind cloud palm. Wind and clouds move, heaven and earth tremble. Great wind and cloud palm will destroy the gods. Fengyan martial saint's expression became strange. He understood the arrogance of this young man. It was impossible for him to submit to anyone. Since he couldn't submit, then he had to die. However, the anger on martial Saint Fengyan's face disappeared. He became very calm, and his eyes showed admiration. This was the heart of a true expert. He would not bow down to others and had his own pride. No matter how powerful a martial emperor powerhouse was, he was still a martial emperor. He was limited to the realm of a martial emperor and a martial saint, and he was restricted by heaven and earth. He could easily eliminate Li Lingtian even if he had to expend some effort. However, he had revealed his moves. This was not an insult, but a kind of honesty that only true opponents would have. After saying that, he slowly withdrew his aura, and the world temporarily quieted down. Chapter 633, Heavenly Sword Unity. Great wind cloud palm. The sky fell silent, and even the air seemed to have frozen. The army of tens of millions and countless supreme experts did not dare to breathe loudly at this moment. They looked at the sky with wide eyes. The wind cloud martial saint was floating in the air. His aura was getting weaker and weaker. Gradually, there was no more aura left. Otherwise, with the presence of the wind cloud martial saint, it was impossible for him to believe that there was such a person in the sky. Similarly, Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. His expression was calm and he looked extremely carefree. The calm before the storm. The atmosphere was oppressive. Space, silence. The expert looked up at the two figures in the air. At that moment, Li Lingtian was no longer a martial emperor powerhouse or a martial emperor that anyone could bully. Instead, he was an existence comparable to a martial saint. Similarly, he was a super powerhouse who had killed a third heaven martial saint. No one dared to look down on this young martial emperor anymore. He had just fought 2 rounds with the wind cloud martial saint of the 10 great martial saints. Although he was at a disadvantage, it was enough for him to be proud of. Boom! Roar! At this moment, the tranquility of the space was suddenly broken, and a series of explosions appeared in the air. The space also trembled. The expressions of countless experts changed drastically. Their eyes were filled with horror as if they had seen a ghost. The wind cloud martial saint stretched out his hand, and the sky changed color. The wind and clouds surged. The entire world seemed to be about to be destroyed. This world had become a world of wind and clouds. The clouds were formless, and the wind was unfixed. The wind and clouds fused, and the world changed color. The power of the wind and clouds changed endlessly, and the power of destruction destroyed the world. A simple hand gesture caused the world to change, striking the minds of all martial artists. Countless martial artists' minds followed the hand gesture and sank into this great wind cloud palm. Li Lingtian did not dare to hesitate when he saw the changes in the space. If he was careless when fighting against a 5th sky martial saint, he would instantly disappear. He was simply courting death. At this moment, he no longer cared about anything else. He circulated his true essence, used the heaven and earth reincarnation art, activated the true dragon body protection, and activated the limitless feather coat. The 5 elements Tao intent formed an independent world that revolved non-stop. Very good. Your great wind cloud palm is very powerful. I want to see if the great wind cloud palm or my heaven sword unity is more powerful. Metal Tao intent. Li Lingtian's eyes shone brightly as his aura was raised to its maximum. Instantly, a shocking sword intent burst out. He was like a sharp sword standing proudly between heaven and earth. The destructive sword intent wreaked havoc in the space. Even a martial saint expert could not comprehend sword intent. Only those super sword show experts had a chance. In this world, there were only a few experts who had cultivated sword essence. After Li Lingtian accepted the heavenly sword physique and refined it, his understanding and acceptance of sword doctrine had become even stronger. Sword intent was the most powerful existence among all kinds of Tao intent. Because this was sword intent. Sword, the king of all weapons. The sword was incomparably sharp. Sword, domineering killing. The sword could destroy heaven and earth. The sword intent was even more terrifying. The sword intent that Li Lingtian controlled had already reached the transcendent state. As soon as he finished speaking, the will of the great path of metal was displayed. The world was filled with destructive will of the great path and force. Wherever the will of the great path and force passed, it was simply invincible. Metal Tao intent. It's Tao intent. Sword intent. I didn't expect to cultivate sword intent and Tao intent. Countless powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian's formless sword will and Tao will in the air with shock and envy on their faces. The way of metal focused on killing and destroying the world, while the sword intent was incomparably sharp. The fusion of the two was a strong combination. Fengyan martial saint was also extremely excited, and his eyes sparkled. It was not easy to meet a powerful opponent. This time, he had to have a good competition. When he saw Li Lingtian's sword intent and metal Dao intent, he was even more curious about Li Lingtian. How could a young man in his 20s be so heaven-defying? The great wind cloud palm had been circulated to its maximum. His eyes turned stern and cold. With a casual slap, the great wind cloud palm struck toward Li Lingtian. Between heaven and earth, there was an endless great wind cloud palm. The wind and clouds thundered as heaven's might descended. The destructive heaven's might and the wind cloud palm came crashing down on Li Lingtian from all directions. Li Lingtian felt as if the entire world had shattered. All the attacks were pressing down on him as if they were about to tear him apart. Sky sword. Heaven sword unity. The corners of his mouth twitched as he muttered to himself. A stream of light flashed between his brows, and a crystal-clear sword appeared in his hand. The moment the sword appeared, a destructive pressure erupted between heaven and earth. It was the pressure of a saint artifact. The pressure of the supreme saint artifact, the sky sword, was completely exposed at this moment. Immediately, Li Lingtian's aura changed abruptly as his sword will transformed into sword force. 100-meter-long sword ray appeared in the air. The shocking sword momentum stunned countless martial artists. It was one thing for Li Lingtian to have cultivated sword intent, but he had also cultivated a sword force that was even more terrifying than sword intent. How could this be possible? It seemed slow, but it was actually fast. The entire process only took 2 seconds. The Tianyu sword transformed into a sword ray and Li Lingtian's figure vanished as well. He had completely merged with the sword ray and achieved man and sword as one. However, he had used the heavenly sword unity because he had the heavenly sword body. When he used the heavenly sword unity, he was the ruler of all swords. The sword aura tore through the void. The sword light ignored time and space. The power of the great wind cloud palm was unparalleled. The two devastating attacks were separated by 100 miles, but the speed of the two attacks was basically ignored. All the soldiers and experts looked at the two attacks in the air. The world seemed to have stopped. Countless experts felt that a century had passed in this world. They didn't dare to make a sound, afraid that they would break the trajectory of the two attacks in the air. After an unknown period of time, all the troops and experts woke up. It was an instant. It was 1 second. It was still a century. No one knew. However, at this moment, the two attacks collided. There was no earth-shattering movement, no earth-shattering explosion, and no world-destroying tremor. Everyone stared blankly at the sky. In the sky, the 100-meter-long sword light slashed down fiercely with golden light. The originally invisible great wind cloud palm also appeared at this moment. The great wind cloud palm was a 100-meter-wide palm print. The palm print and the sword light collided. There was no sound, and they were not immediately destroyed. Poochie. However, at the same time, 2 sounds of blood spurting could be heard. The two figures were thrown out like kites with broken strings. 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles. 300 miles. The two figures were thrown 300 miles away. In the end, they floated quietly in the air without any movement. The world fell silent. The sword light disappeared and the great wind cloud palm was destroyed. Everything vanished into thin air. Li Lingtian was still Li Lingtian, and the wind cloud martial saint was still the wind cloud martial saint. It was like an illusion. All the experts and the army were stunned. They thought that everything was fake, but the two figures in the air told them that it was not fake. Tang Qingyue and the others were extremely worried as they watched Li Lingtian float in the air. In the past, Li Lingtian had only encountered ordinary martial saints who were below the 3rd heaven. However, this time, he had encountered a 5th heaven martial saint. He was also a super heaven-defying expert among the 10 great martial saints, a martial saint who could defy the heavens. They no longer had the slightest confidence in the battle between the two. Because the person fighting in the air was their man, their pillar of support, and also their spiritual support. However, they could only wait and did not dare to disturb Li Lingtian at all. Similarly, the countless super experts on the city wall and Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others in the air were also calm. There was excitement and worry in his eyes. He was excited to see Li Lingtian's true strength, which was heaven-defying, but he was worried about Li Lingtian's comfort. In such a great battle, they simply could not intervene. Phew! Sho! While countless experts were worried and curious, the two people floating in the air stood up strangely. They stood up at the same time and floated in the air again. At the same time, he needed a breath of fresh air, as if he had been holding back for a long time. Their expressions were calm, and there were traces of blood at the corners of their mouths. They could not tell how much damage they had suffered, but some martial saints could tell that the two of them were heavily injured. It was just that they did not show it on the surface. A great battle between powerhouses that had reached such a level had completely exceeded the scope of their imagination. Again. Again. Li Lingtian and the Windcloud Martial Saint spoke at the same time with excitement on their faces. This scene stunned countless people. These two were lunatics that made people afraid. Battle maniac, he actually had a battle intent at this moment. Fengyan Pavilion, this time, I won't hold back. You have to be careful with this move. If you die, I won't have a match. This move is called the 9 Heavenly Stars. If you can't withstand it, you can say it because it's a powerful technique that surpasses the heaven rank and even the saint rank. Li Lingtian replied calmly. Although the other party was an enemy, a true enemy was much better than a hypocritical one. Moreover, he had developed a sense of admiration for such an opponent. This was the principle of a hero cherishing a hero. The 9 Heavenly Stars. The legendary 9 Heavenly Stars. Could it be the legendary innate skill that can only be cultivated by those who have reached the 5 elements perfection? Could he be at the 5 elements perfection? Stars in the 9 skies? You must be joking. In the divine martial continent, no one has ever cultivated the 5 elements to perfection, let alone the 9 heavenly stars. Saint level? Surpass the saint tier? All the powerhouses were stunned by Li Lingtian's words as their expressions changed continuously. Immediately after, a series of exclamations erupted, and their expressions were ugly. They did not believe Li Lingtian's words at all because the 9 skies of stars was a legend from the upper realm. The divine martial continent did not even exist. Besides, the 9 heavenly stars was the innate divine art of a 5 elements perfection powerhouse. Could Li Lingtian's 5 elements perfection be the real heaven-defying one? Chapter 634. The 9 heavenly stars defeated the martial saint. For a moment, countless experts looked up at the sky. At this moment, the figure that originally did not look imposing and tall became like a mountain, giving people an insurmountable moat. The legend of the divine martial continent had actually appeared on this young man. Everyone looked at Li Lingtian curiously, wanting to see what the legendary existence looked like. The 9 heavenly stars. Are you at the peak of the 5 elements? Windcloud Martial Saint could not sit still anymore. His expression changed several times as he looked at Li Lingtian in surprise. Gradually, his eyes turned envious. After becoming a martial emperor, he had never envied anyone else. When he became a martial saint, he was an overlord of a region and was one of the 10 martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom. Even the king of the Moonsong Kingdom had to be polite and respectful when he saw him. Naturally, he would not be envious of anything else. However, he was actually envious of a martial emperor powerhouse now. This envy was something that he would never be able to achieve in his entire life. At first, Li Lingtian's terrifying heavenly sword unity was already heaven-defying enough to break his great windcloud palm. Now that Li Lingtian had mentioned the almighty art of the 9 heavenly stars, he asked Li Lingtian curiously. Phew! Li Lingtian did not say a word. In a flash, he took a step forward. The vital essence in his body circulated, and the heaven and earth reincarnation activated the will of the five elements. Suddenly, a golden will of the way appeared between heaven and earth. He didn't need to say anything. What he wanted was to use facts to prove everything. He wanted to prove that he was an expert, a heaven-defying expert. The metal Tao intent was unleashed once again. Although countless powerhouses were shocked, they were no longer as shocked and envious as before after witnessing it once. However, Li Lingtian's actions made all of them understand that Li Lingtian spoke with his strength. He was looking forward to Li Lingtian's next move even more. Similarly, the Windcloud Martial Saint was looking forward to it as well. Although he knew that the 9 heaven stars was incomparably domineering, he still wanted to see a mighty technique like the 9 heaven stars. After the metal will of the Great Path appeared, it was followed by the wood will of the Great Path, followed by the water will of the Great Path, fire will of the Great Path, and earth will of the Great Path. The 5 elements Tao will was unleashed in an instant. Instantly, Li Lingtian was the center of the world. An independent world formed around Li Lingtian. It's not the 5 elements paragon. It's the perfected 5 elements Tao intent. All the experts were stunned when they saw the appearance of the 5 elements Tao intent. The 5 elements perfection was already heaven-defying. There had never been a powerhouse with the 5 elements perfection in the divine martial continent. He did not expect Li Lingtian to cultivate the 5 elements Tao intent. A martial emperor powerhouse in his 20s was able to control the sword intent and sword force, as well as the 5 elements Tao intent. At this moment, the expression on Martial Saint Fingyan's face changed. Even if he was a 5th sky martial saint, he was not confident at all. After all, the 5 elements perfection was too heaven-defying. Now that Li Lingtian had not only mastered the 5 elements perfection but also the 5 elements Tao intent perfection, its power had completely exceeded the realm of a warrior's imagination. Now, he understood that the young man in front of him was abnormal. He could not surpass him at all. If this young man was given a few more decades, no one in Shenzhou would be able to control him. He circulated the true essence in his entire body and displayed the attributes of the wind and cloud dual elements. In front of the 5 elements Tao intent, using the 5 elements martial soul was simply asking for a beating. No matter what martial soul you had, as long as it was the 5 elements, you would be completely restrained. Only the wind and cloud attribute was not among the 5 elements. Coupled with his powerful 5th heaven martial saint cultivation, he hoped to defeat Li Lingtian. He extended his hand and a strange weapon appeared in his hand. Sword of Wind and Cloud. The Wind Cloud martial saint shouted and raised the Wind Cloud sword in his hand. Instantly, the sky changed color and the clouds surged as if the world was about to be destroyed. All the experts and the army looked at the wind and clouds in the sky, and their expressions changed drastically. The sword of wind and cloud waved, and the wind and clouds in the world formed a huge sword light that could destroy the world. The wind and clouds fused, and the world was unpredictable. It had mysterious power and effects. The giant sword's radiance seemed to be about to destroy Li Lingtian. At this moment, Li Lingtian was like a leaf in the midst of endless waves. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's body swayed. He waved his hand in the air, and his posture was extremely elegant. His every move carried the demeanor of a mighty figure, making all the experts in the world sigh in admiration. At that moment, the space trembled and 99 5-colored spiritual pearls appeared in the air. The 99 5-colored spiritual pearls began to revolve around Li Lingtian. Every time it rotated, the world would tremble, and an independent time would appear. In the eyes of the army and powerhouses, 100-meter-wide world of light appeared around Li Lingtian. This world of light was made of colorful glass and it was practically a mirage. 9 heaven stars. Li Lingtian spoke in a low voice with a sincere look on his face. At the same time, he exuded the might of an ancient mighty figure that shocked all the powerhouses in the world. As the 9 sky stars appeared, Li Lingtian stepped forward to meet the sword of wind and cloud. The 9 heavenly stars. 9 heaven stars. This is the 9 heaven stars. What a magical 9 heaven star technique. It's the technique of an ancient mighty figure, the nine heavens star technique. Looking at the independent world in the sky, the experts of the world were shocked. The tens of millions of soldiers had looks of worship in their eyes. All of them prostrated on the ground as if they had seen a god. His eyes were filled with Yu Cheng. At this moment, Li Lingtian was no longer that young man but an indomitable almighty powerhouse, an invincible existence. Tang Qingyue and the others were filled with happiness and sweetness. This heaven-defying man was their man. The man who loved them was extremely gentle in front of them. It was a blessing for a woman to have such a powerful man. It was an indescribable happiness and sweetness. The supreme experts of Qing Xian also looked at the figure in the sky with worship. Similarly, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others were extremely excited. Although Li Lingtian had used the 9 heavenly stars before, he had never truly displayed it in a battle before. Now that he had used it, this power and strength was already indescribable. Having a powerful master was also a lucky thing. Not to mention the other experts and martial saints, even Xianyuan Qingqing, who didn't know anything, was very happy to see this atmosphere. The powerful man in the air was her imperial uncle. Although they did not spend much time together, she naturally understood the love that Li Lingtian gave her. She was Li Lingtian's treasure. Although he was her imperial uncle, Li Lingtian was no different from her parents in her heart. Her parent-like imperial uncle was so powerful, so she was naturally extremely happy. Looking at the countless armies prostrating and worshipping her, she was naturally overjoyed. The stars in the 9 heavens, this world belongs to me. This world belongs to me. I will be invincible and sweep the world. All living beings will submit to me. Because I am the ruler of this world, the ruler of all things in the world. Li Lingtian spoke indifferently with a calm expression on his face. His entire body exuded the aura of a god descending upon the world. His eyes looked down on the world and looked down on all living beings. His tone was overbearing. Even the martial saint powerhouses who heard Li Lingtian's words felt that only a powerhouse like Li Lingtian could say such words. At this moment, no one called Li Lingtian arrogant and ignorant because they were not qualified to comment on him. Moreover, Li Lingtian had the right to boast. The 99 five-colored spiritual pearls kept spinning, and the 5 elements world became more and more solid. A strange aura appeared between heaven and earth. Space was a large world while Li Lingtian was surrounded by a small world. However, the small world did not clash with the large world. On the contrary, countless mysterious auras in the sky had merged into the 5 elements world. This was the 9 skies stars, a terrifying almighty technique, a legendary existence. The wind cloud martial saint looked excited, but he was also frightened. He knew that he had failed miserably this time. He had failed at the hands of a martial emperor. Moreover, this martial monarch realm expert was only in his 20s. The age difference between the two of them was dozens of times. In this world, comparing people was infuriating. When other martial artists were in their 20s, the heaven-defying ones were martial emperors. Most of them were still mixed in with martial kings and martial spirits. However, Li Lingtian had already formed the 9 skies of stars and formed an independent world. This made Wind Cloud Martial Saint, one of the 10 great martial saints of Moonsong Kingdom, feel fearful. However, he did not regret it at all. On the contrary, he was excited because he had seen a true expert, a peerless expert who was about to defy the heavens and see the legendary almighty technique of the upper realm. Boom! The entire process seemed slow, but it only took a few seconds. The sword of wind and cloud slashed down in front of the 9 heavens star with destructive power. He did not believe that a martial emperor powerhouse's skill could block his trump card. However, when he saw the sword of wind and cloud slashing at the stars in the 9 heavens, he believed it. With a shocking explosion, the destructive power of the wind and cloud sword seemed to have slashed a huge planet. The 9 skies star appeared weak and helpless, but the destructive attack only caused the 9 skies star to tremble slightly. Li Lingtian's body trembled as well, but he quickly stabilized himself. The sword of wind and cloud vanished and the destructive force dissipated. All of Li Ling Tian was absorbed by the 9 skies stars. Originally, it was the 5 elements Tao intent. Now that the wind and cloud force had been added to it, the power of the 9 skies stars had become even stronger. Li Ling Tian walked toward the wind and cloud martial saint step by step. The speed seemed to be extremely slow, but it covered 100 miles in a blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, Li Ling Tian was already in front of the wind cloud martial saint. The 9 heavenly stars ignored the wind cloud martial saint's defense and sucked him in. The wind cloud martial saint didn't struggle in front of the 9 sky stars. He knew that he had to attack from the outside if he wanted to break the 9 sky stars. However, he gave up on this idea when he encountered the 9 sky stars. The 9 heavenly stars ignored attacks and defenses. Unless one encountered a heaven-defying mighty figure, it was impossible to break them from the outside. However, once they entered, they would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered by Li Ling Tian. Boom! The shocking aura of a martial saint exploded in the stars in the 9 heavens. The stars in the 9 skies trembled, but Li Ling Tian's expression did not change at all. He did not have any intention of making a move either. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.